What do you say, everybody? Thank you for joining us on the show. Obviously, the game, the Bama looked terrible, and I'm not going to cut any slack on this effort today. First half, first quarter, awful. Rain, snow, sleet, or hail is bad, and we're going to talk about it right here on the Cover Crimson post game show. I'm coming at you from Key West, so. Everybody, I hope you're having a great day. Let's just get this thing started. I don't even know what to say other than Kalen DeBoer's legacy through one season is disappointment in the games that we're supposed to win. And today, shameful. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillispie here, Cover Crimson, brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use that promo code next round for a double of your initial deposit with the sports book, 300% match on deposit bonus for the casino and 50 free spins. All right. My thoughts on the game is that, once again, we weren't ready to go. We weren't ready to go. This is another Oklahoma game to me. Disappointed. I'm just tired of seeing this. Like, we haven't lived this life in 17 plus years. And I like Kalen DeBoer, but excuse my French, earmuffs for the kids. This shit's got to change. First quarter of this football game was awful, pathetic, and it's not up to our standards. And Jalen Milroe, good luck in the NFL, man. I hope you do well. But it's time to move on from him, too. Let me bring Clint on. I know you guys are ready to talk about this on the call-in line. Clint, you're the voice of reason here. I'm looking at this debacle today. It's not the result. It's just the fact that we suck. We sucked in this football game to me, Clint. Just sucked.
Mick, I got a question. Who are the three worst good teams Alabama played?
Yeah, right.
Meaning, we're not going to include Western Kentucky. We're not going to include Mercer. We're not going to include USF. The three worst good teams that Alabama played this year, from a record standpoint at least, was Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and Michigan. They lost all three games. So, you can play really poor football. And remember, they played really poor football against USF for 3.5 quarters. So they were entering the fourth quarter with the possibility of losing that game as well. So that's what I can't get past. This has not been an issue for Alabama in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
When it's the opponents that you're clear, and Michigan's got talent. They're 7-5. We've talked about it. It's kind of, it's not Vanderbilt, but at the same time, like, a lot of Vanderbilt's losses outside of Georgia State were to really good football teams. Michigan, a lot of their losses were to really good football teams.
Right.
But it feels like Alabama, and granted, the beginning of the game, the weather, the fluky fumble on the shotgun snap, that really kind of set a tone. And one thing about Milroe, and this goes way beyond Milroe, by the way, we're going to be talking about a lot, but one thing that we have always said about him, and he showed signs of maybe getting past it, but he really never has. Yeah. And that is going back to his first start ever against Texas A&M a couple of years ago. He looks like a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
And when he gets in that type of mode, there's no coming back from it. He's going to be rattled all day. And that's exactly what we saw. He had no idea what he was doing out there. The combination of the tackle play and Jalen Milroe this entire season, it was a recipe not for disaster. Disaster is 6-6 or 5-7, but it's as close for an Alabama fan as disaster can really get. Because I would say, the worst season Alabama's had since 2007. I'll put it that way.
Right. Milroe was terrible again.
He was
I
not
mean,
good.
he was just Clint, there's an F word that I want to say. I'm trying not to because I'm on Cover Crimson. I want to like bring my game up a little bit and not totally like, come off the rails here, but like he sucked. Like, what is he doing? Like, and I know like there was slim pickings at receiver and all that stuff. The offensive line.
There wasn't.
But dude, it was him, man. Like what are you doing with the ball? Like he just has these games where he is garbage, man. And I like him. I really do. I think he's a great athlete. And I love his work ethic. It's not a personal like, hey, I don't like this guy. Like I do like him, but I'm glad that this is the last game. I can't do this anymore.
I mean,
like good luck in the NFL, man, or wherever you end up next year.
Multiple things can be true. Jalen Milroe can have massive problems, and that's very easily exploitable. And he has his own, he does not, in my opinion, for the most part, when you evaluate him as a player, for the most part, he does not handle adversity all that well. I think that's a problem. That is a truth, in my opinion. That is one of my truths regarding Alabama. What is also true is that he has not gotten anywhere close to the help that he's needed. He hadn't had. Now, part of it is, his fault because the lack of a traditional run game in a lot of those instances was,
right.
Due to Jalen Milroe's legs and then wanting to funnel stuff through him. But he has not had a complimentary run game. He has not had tackles or pass protection that could ever hold up consistently. He has not had play calling that was consistent enough to put him in a position to be successful. Now, I do think that, to an extent, Nick Sheridan has been handcuffed due to the style in which Jalen Milroe plays. When you've got this guy last year, he was able to overcome a lot of third and longs. He was actually better in third and long situations than he was in third and shorts. That was never going to be sustainable. And so the recipe is just get them in some obvious passing situations against those tackles, tee off on them, or, if it's an end-of-half situation, in the game situation, and you're going to be able to apply pressure, he's going to bail typically backwards. And it's a pretty easy recipe for having success against this Alabama offense. And they never figured out a way to overcome it. I love the screen pass that they called
I loved it
on
too.
that drop, but then they turned around and on that third down, you go into the end zone on third down when it's 2-down territory. There was no reason to do that, in my opinion. I understand that you don't want, if you can avoid a fourth down situation, you want to avoid it, but you could have easily, based off of what they were playing and how they were playing, you could have picked up 5, 6, 7 yards and made it a much more manageable fourth down. But then it was 4th and 10. Michigan, at that point, they know they got Alabama right where they want them with their tackle play, with the way Jalen Milroe plays. They knew pretty much at that point game was over right there.
Yeah, look, I hate to say it, but it just wasn't up to the standard at Alabama, and it's time to figure something else out, and that's the best part about college, and it's the tough part about college. You get a Bryce Young, you want him to stay, but this situation, it's just time to move on and do something else. I mean, this just wasn't up to our standard. It's not all about Milroe, but I mean, you know what, man, he's got limitations, Clint, and you know that he's got limitations. But I just can't believe they lost. I'm like, just to play like that,
it
sucked, man. Like you're just watching this and you're going, man, is this really like all the turnovers in the first quarter? Like, are you ready? There's some people that I'm going to tell you something, man. This is just true. I got a text from a guy that played at Alabama. Guy's got a ring, and he was like watching that debacle in the first half, and he's like, DeBoer's on the hot seat. And I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm just telling you, there's people that are Bama people that played at Alabama for Saban and appreciate championships. And it's not Coker, by the way, because some of you are going to be like that. It was not Coker. That think that this is garbage. They don't think he's tough enough. They think he's too soft. And then you see these games, Vanderbilt. We lost to Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and this sorry-ass Michigan team when they're not even good. But we beat Georgia, LSU, Missouri. I mean, beat good teams. What's the consistency, man? That's the problem I think people have.
What did I say, Mick? When I said that all these guys were opting out and they were going to be playing a bunch of second, third teamers. And Michigan already was struggling this season. But the second that happened, it's like I would almost rather play Oregon. I feel like beating Oregon is easier for Alabama than playing like a subpar football team, especially one that was 7-5 and it feels like 90% of their starters and top notch NFL talent has left or won't be participating due to injury. So it's like I just I don't know what it is about these types of situations. I really don't. But we're at a point now where you need to be able to get the job done against subpar opponents.
Can you hear me? No, I'm just sitting here and I'm going, I'm just watching this TV and I just fucking scream. I'm sorry. I can't even believe that I just sat there and watched that. What a debacle, man. Like I meant to put you on the screen just so I could just see what the fuck did I just watch? People don't hold it against me. That is not Alabama football, man. Like what are we doing? Like watching them try to they can't take a snap. Nobody can block. Like we watching that game. I'm going, we can do better than this, right? I mean, is this where we're going right now, Clint? I'm gonna put you guys. You guys give a thumbs up if you feel like me right now. Thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. I'm just so frustrated right now, man. Like I'm just sitting here going, you got to be kidding me.
Here's what I'll say. We're gonna have plenty of time for the criticism side of this. There's plenty of it. We've already started in on it. I think he's been on for 12 minutes. I'm guessing 11 minutes and 40 seconds of it have been the negative. Let's go ahead and highlight some of the positive because I want to make sure we're getting kind of a balance of both. James Smith was a game wrecker. Now this Michigan offense, it's not great. They're starting left tackle, but yeah, he was consistently.
Where's he been? This guy was insane.
I'm hoping sometimes guys use these type of situations or games to really kind of vault themselves and really give themselves a lot of positive momentum going into the offseason. And then the following year, they really use it as a launching pad. And just for him, Alabama is really Tim Keenan's a good defensive lineman, but Alabama has been lacking an interior game wrecker for a hot minute. I think that James Smith showed flashes of that. Gives Mincy some credit. Do I think he made, he was playing a little bit soft, wasn't protecting the sidelines like he should have in a couple of situations. But as far as coming up and making hits and doing all that stuff, I think he showed a lot of want to. We knew he was a physical corner. Now he's playing safety. This is why he was able to make the transition to safety, because he has this ability or willingness to come up into the box, be physical. And I think that he showed some great bright spots. Jeremy Bernard on the offensive side of the football. You're talking about a guy who, 5 catches for 80 yards and easily should have posted double that. I mean, easily should have been topping 150 in this game. He was open a lot. This Kalen DeBoer offense, when it comes to, now granted, there were times where guys weren't open downfield. It wasn't like it was Milroe dropping back and there's somebody open on every play. It was kind of a mix of both. But Jeremy Bernard did a pretty consistent job. Now, granted, I'm not, I wasn't at the game. I wasn't watching, from the field view. I could be missing something. I'll go back and watch the tape. But from looking at it live, TV broadcast, he looked to be open quite a bit. That is a huge positive. But, and there's some others as well. Those were probably my biggest 3 takeaways. I mean, Justin Jefferson, even though we threw the punch, it was yet again an undisciplined play at the end of the game. Didn't end up mattering that much as far as other than costing Alabama some time.
But hold on, Clint. I mean, and I know you're on a roll, and we're going to take your guys' calls. I know you're on hold. What the hell, man? Can we just get any of this figured out? Haven't we learned anything from Vanderbilt to this game on the discipline? We have no discipline. Even our best players, guys that are going to the NFL, no discipline all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I see. Let's see if I can find the. You guys are commenting pretty fast. Let's see. Someone, and I'm missing it now. Oh, here we go. Dexter. He said, Kane Wommack coached a hell of a game. You do have to give him his props as well. This is one of those games where it's tough. because Michigan is just so limited, man, and kind of what their identity has been under, Sharon Moore. It's been kind of a grind fest. It's been running the football, and you're not having a lot of success early in the game, but you're banking on good defense, keeping you in it while your offense really wears the defense down. You did see that start to take over a little bit in the second half, but when it mattered, I thought it was going to be really tough for Alabama to have 2 possessions at the end of that game when they got down 9 points. They got the second possession with plenty of time. So you give the defense credit for bowing up and stepping up when they needed to, but I think overall the defense deserves major kudos because the offense really couldn't have put the defense in a worse situation for this game.
Yeah, look, I'm with you, man. All right, look, I'm going to the phone lines right now. Remember, you can't hear Clint, so you just got to get on here, give your thoughts. We'll chew on them, and we'll get to the next call. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm in a bad mood over this game. Now, and I'm not going to be in a bad mood when the show's over because I'm going downtown Key West, and I'm going to have a good time tonight. Right now, I'm not happy. I sit there, watch that. I'm like, what? This reminds me of the Shula days, man. I mean, can we just get a little consistency again? Like, what happened to consistent football, man? 17 years we were spoiled.
Maybe they're consistently inconsistent.
God, man.
Maybe that's where we're finding the consistency.
I like DeBoer. I don't want to get onto him too bad, but golly, man.
I still believe in him. I believe in him.
Too,
a bunch of fans are not going to.
I'm not there. I'm
telling you, let him implement his guys. If we're still talking about even half of these things still being issues, midway through next season, you'll hear me singing a completely different tune. I have to, before I'm willing to bail, I have to see him with his guys running his style of offense. Kane Womack running exactly what he wants to run defensively. And I'm just asking, give the man 6 more games. I'm not
throwing them out of the bus. Like I like him too. It could be Milroe. It could be I don't know, but Milroe's not. He's not. I mean, we needed Bryce Young to come together and pull that. We needed Milroe to make some plays at the end of the game, and he just couldn't do it. But the whole game stunk. All right, let's go to the phone line. So let's get this thing started and hear from you guys. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, this is Jay from Birmingham.
What's up, Jay, man? Throw it out there and Clint and I will chew on it. But tell me I'm crazy for being pissed off about this one.
No, you're dead on. I'm so pissed. I got my brother here with me. We've had enough of it. We've watched every game all year. Real quick, Milroe is who Milroe is. That's all I'm going to say. My frustrations is with DeBoer in this game and Nick Sheridan. I have never seen, and I grew up in the Shula days, I've never seen a coach have zero feel for the game. Zero. And how in the world are you running 4 verts into cover 3 when you know they have 8 people in double mug up on the line and throwing into cover 3 and your running back standing there with nothing to do because you can't block 8 people. You can't. You have to have a check down. They have zero awareness. This is all on DeBoer and Sheridan. My last thought is, how in the world, you're in a bowl game that doesn't mean anything. How disrespectful is it of Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan to not give Ty Simpson or Austin Mack a chance in this game?
Oh, thank you.
And throw the team under the bus by not giving them a chance because clearly Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard were pissed. They're throwing their hands up. They're like, what in the world's going on? It's disrespectful to your team. DeBoer may lose the team over this in the spring.
I hope not.
Hey,
I hope not, but we're pissed. We've had enough of it. I always liked DeBoer. I thought it was a good hire. I don't know what to say. All I know is we cannot have this happen next season. I want to see some consistency. I agree with you guys, but I have been baffled by the play calling from Nick Sheridan this year. Zero feel for the game. It's one thing to let Milroe ride it out, but in this game, you should have given Milroe a half, pull a Cam Ward thing, give Milroe a half, and say, hey, buddy, we're gonna play some guys that really worked hard all year, and they need a chance to play, and they haven't played, so we're gonna do that. And that's my thoughts on that.
Hey, thanks for the call, Jay, and Roll Tide, brother. Thanks for calling in, man. I'm with you too.
Yeah, no time.
Roll Tide. Clint, I'm with him. Like, did I get it that like Jalen stuck around, and I appreciate him, and I think he's a really good guy, man. He's a good dude. This isn't personal against him, but he sucked today. Like and he sucked against Oklahoma. And it's like, when is it that you say, hey man, like this is our next guy anyway? Why not give him a couple snaps? Why not give Ty Simpson a drive, Clint? Touch the rock.
Here's what I said before the game. I said, do not play Ty Simpson outside of a Jalen Milroe injury. Now, what I meant by that is, don't just do it to say we want to get Ty Simpson some reps. I came out of that and I said, someone rightfully pointed out, are you telling us to not even play Ty Simpson in a blowout? Like if they're blowing him out, to not get him reps again? That's crazy. It's like, no. In any situation that you would have played Ty Simpson in any other game against Georgia, if you were blowing Georgia out at the end of the game, it's fourth quarter, he's coming in, you do that in this situation. The other thing so that was a correct, hey, maybe I should have clarified that. But the other side of that was if Jalen Milroe is struggling. Like, I don't want anybody to think I'm over here like, oh, Jalen Milroe's turned the football over, 3 times in the first quarter. He's really struggling to see the field. There's nothing, getting going. But you can't put Ty Simpson in, because you would consider that if it was Georgia, or most people would. You would consider it in any other game or any other situation, so it would have been fine. But you didn't see that. And here's the thing: the huge storyline for Alabama would have been Jalen Milroe, in what many believe to be his last game, gets benched, and he's trying to make it to the NFL. And it's like, I mean, and I understand that is a really tough position for Kalen DeBoer to be in, because the locker room does love him. But I think that you put him as an individual over the team, and maybe even the team would support that because they didn't want to see him go out like that either. I don't know. Right. But it's just, I feel like that probably had a lot to do with it. But what I didn't like was the fact that Kalen DeBoer was defending Milroe at the half when he was asked about him. He said, what was different on those last 2 drives was the question he was asked when they kicked a field goal and scored a touchdown. He said, that we finally gave, Jalen some time, and he's out there making plays. And it's just like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that this whole situation has been one of the craziest situations that I've ever personally seen when it comes to college football.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Also, some super chats coming up. Thundar, I'm going to get you hooked up here in a second. Thank you, man. Let's get back to the phone lines, though, because some of you guys have been waiting on here for a while. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, Mick, this is Brandon from D.C. How's it going, man?
Brandon, what's up, dude? And as disappointing as this debacle was, man, good to hear from you.
Man, at a certain point, and what's up, Clint?
How you doing?
At a certain point, I just, I'm going to start with the positive first, right? Our defense came to play, right? A lot of folks are giving Womack a ton of, stuff this year. And, he really got his team playing. James Smith wreaked havoc. I really like the progress of our team there. And I'm encouraged. I think, look, Mincy's going to need a little bit of time, but I really like his aggressiveness. Number 7, he also popped off the field. I forgot he's a transfer from Wake Forest. I just can't recall his name, but he really stepped up in there and had some really big hits. And again, our defensive team is excellent. And that's encouraging moving into next year, because I know a lot of the folks are getting used to the new scheme. And I'm encouraged by it. I think Damani Jackson, he's going to come back for another year. I think that, as we start moving forward and these younger guys get more opportunities, we're going to start seeing them make more impacts on the game. Another positive I got to say is my boy Justin Jefferson. I know he had that boneheaded play. And again, that's something, Mick, the penalties and just the stupidity of some of these penalties have really just been pissing me off all year. But again, Justin Jefferson, he has a chance to come back for another year. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge asset for us in giving us some stability in the middle of the field. Now unfortunately, man, I got to kind of go in on my guy Milroe. You take away those turnovers, we actually win this game, right? Those turnovers are so critical. And now I'm going to talk about it from an NFL analysis, right? His issue is his eyes drop, right? He sees pressure when there's not pressure. He has an innate ability, obviously, to escape, but he is not quick, right? Jalen is fast. And so when you have someone that doesn't necessarily have pocket awareness and pocket presence, and then all of a sudden now you're blitzing him and his eyes are dropping instead of realizing that, hey, if you got blitzers coming from the field, guess what? Someone's open to the field. If you got blitzers coming from the boundary, oh, look, just set my feet. The guy's going to be coming in. Most likely I can get him to jump on a pump fake and just throw the ball, right? And so he missed Ryan Williams high on the boundary that one time because he just wouldn't set his feet. On the final play of the game, that goes back to fundamentals, right? You're rolling out left. All he has to do is set his feet and step into the throw. You're going to get blasted, right? But you can't throw into the end zone off your back foot, right? Unless you're Patrick Mahomes and you just have some insane arm talent, you can throw all the off-platform throws. Every other quarterback, you have to set your feet. And so Milroe, this entire game, this is probably the most frustrated I've been at him, because Jeremy was running wide open on the crosser route, and he has an inability to see beyond the linebackers and hold them there and then throw to the open, right? And so one of the things that Bryce had that a lot of these quarterbacks too had to feel for this is they threw receivers open or they threw the spots because they knew the playbook. My concern for Jalen Milroe is he gets scatterbrained whenever pressure's coming. I think he actually forgets the playbook. I think he has to see a receiver come open when he sees the blitz coming instead of stepping up in the pocket and hitting the crosser or hitting the in-cutting route. He just can't see the field. And so this is my fear. And Mick, you don't want to hear this. I'm afraid that he played so terribly that he has to come back for another year. Now, I don't believe.
No, he's
I
not.
know it, man. I know
Brandon,
it. I know
he's not,
it. No,
Brandon.
hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. If Alabama does not say thank you for your service, but you need to go, they're going to lose the team. You're going to see a mass exodus of Ryan Williams. You're going to see a mass exodus of the receivers because Jalen just cannot. He needs a new look. Look, Jalen. The two Jalens both had this issue, right? And Jalen, the other Jalen, Hurts, went off to Oklahoma and got a fresh start. Jalen Milroe needs to come back to college football for another year. He just needs to go to another location. Miami has an opening, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, he just needs a fresh start. He needs a new opportunity and maybe not necessarily have the Alabama eyeballs on him. So, again, just like Seth McLaughlin had a resurgence over at Ohio State, Jalen can have a resurgence somewhere else. He's not ready for NFL ball. He's going to be a 4th and 5th round pick. I had him at a 2nd. But the more game film we have of him, you can recognize it. He just does not read the field well. He has an inability to just step in the throws. He has poor mechanics whenever he gets scatterbrained. And so for me, that is the definition of a day 3 to undrafted free agent. But because of his skill set and his innate ability to potentially play a different position, he will get drafted a little bit higher, and someone will take a flyer out on him and say, hey, I'm going to have you sit for 3 or 4 years and just have you develop. So that's a positive there. I believe he needs to go pro unless he goes somewhere else because Alabama has to move forward. And to be honest with you, it's open season. Keelan Russell's coming in. Ty Simpson's going to have an opportunity. Like, they need to have an open competition, and whoever the receivers are gravitating towards, whoever the receivers have the confidence in, that's who has to be able to get in there and play. Unfortunately, DeBoer, man, he's going to get a lot of crap, Nick. DeBoer's hands were tied. The last year, when they made a change at quarterback and the team was lost, was guess when? They're playing right there in Tampa. And they lost the team because they made a change at quarterback. For me personally, I was so frustrated that they didn't pull him after the fumble. But I said, if they pull this man and he came back and he's been loyal, he is going to lose the team in the long run. I know it doesn't seem like that to the outside, but to the inside, you lose the team in the long run when you have a guy that's loyal, committed to you, has put every blood, sweat, and tears into it, and then you pull him when he's offered up opportunities to leave and he stays. So that's why DeBoer was literally like, I've got to ride this all the way to the end. I can't pull the guy. I've got to ride him. Now moving forward, their path is done, right? No longer do we need Jalen Milroe here. He doesn't need us. We don't need him. Move forward. And you're going to see a resurgence in the distribution of the ball and the offensive play calling confidence, because they're blaming Sheridan, man. I'm like, there's receivers running wide open.
Yeah, he can't get him the ball.
There's receivers running wide open. Yeah, and they didn't get him the ball, man. Ryan Williams, he had 3 catches. How does your best player on your team get the ball 3 times? I don't give a damn. You hand them.
Yeah.
Hey, line up back there. We're handing the ball, right?
$3 million in NIL. Where's the ball to him?
Where's the ball at? Right. That's why he was looking at you with his look. He got diamond grills in. He's like, Bill's got to get paid. I need the ball. Which is why you saw him return the punt return with the 10, and he's running backwards. He's like, I got to make a play myself, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the frustration was setting in with the receivers, and they've been holding it in all year to their credit. They've been blocking their butts off. They've been running routes hard. They play hard. But when you're running wide open as a former receiver that played at Clemson, right? You're running wide open, and the quarterback is not giving you the ball, and you looking at the coach saying, Coach, I'm running the route the way you told me to, and the ball's not coming. I am not gripped. I'm not griping. I'm not a diva. You're not getting me the ball. Why is he still in the game? How about we give another guy a shot to see if that could boost some confidence in the team? And because they couldn't do it, you just saw them just like, it is what it is, right? You saw the frustration setting in. So next year will be a Nick. Go ahead, man. Give DeBoer another year. I know it's frustrating. I know there were a lot of frustrating close losses. But you see now the teams that are going to be playing this, you see the game plan. They're going to be running the ball out. They're going to be running the ball. And guess what Florida State has next year? They got that kid from Boston College that can rip and run all over the damn place.
Right.
So if we don't get this together, it's going to be a very, very long year because they're going to just keep rinsing and reusing Vanderbilt's playbook on us. And our defense stepped up and showed that, hey, we actually can stop it because we're stout up front.
Yeah.
And we've got our DBs are playing better. So I'm not worried about the defense. The problem is if the offense gets 3 and out every damn time they get the ball, it is going to be a long game and the defense is going to wear down and you're going to start seeing the Tennessees. You're going to start seeing the Vanderbilts. You're going to see the OUs. Defense runs out of gas, man. And the offense is turning the ball over. What are you going to do? So I would tell you, Mick, I know it's going to piss you off, man. I know, look, it's been a long year. I'm so happy for you all, man. You have done a fantastic job. The Crimson has been a mainstay for me now this year because you all, again, don't pull punches. And at the end of the day, that's something that I like, honest brokers, man. So, look, you've done a fantastic job. Big Elmo is so proud of you, man. So continue to just be grateful going into the new year. Just know it's going to be better next year. And when spring ball comes, hey, Milroe's gone. We got a new group coming in, and we can go ahead and have that positive energy going in. You're going to see a new DeBoer too, right? Jalen's going to be gone.
Yeah.
You're going to see a new DeBoer. He's going to have confidence, and he's going to make a change. So just, hold your head up, man. It's going to be all right.
Well, Brandon, you're my first All-American caller, and another epic call from DC, man. Thank you. Happy New Year, man.
Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, man. And when I say brother, I mean it, man. This Clint, I love him.
Oh, I mean, just
that great call.
Yeah, he's always such a great caller. I always feel like we're on the same wavelength. And look, I don't know why Jalen Milroe is the only player that certain fans feel is above criticism. You will find every reason why it's not his fault. Now, I know it feels like
let me throw it up. Thundar with the super chats. Thundar, I'm glad. Thundar, thank you, man. Thank you. Super chat, we love you, man. Milroe wasn't given the support. The world's against him. Hates him. Every QB needs 8 seconds, and he's right, man. The offensive line hasn't been fantastic, and another super chat, Clint. He didn't stop with one. And for all of you guys that are hanging out, like and subscribe. There's almost 750 of you. There's over 750. Give us 750 thumbs up right now as you hang out. And thank you for being here. But he's talking about Mbakwe for running to the sideline faster than Milroe could decide to throw it to him. Now, obviously, we were down to 4 wide receivers.
Well, I mean, but here, first of all, here's the thing.
And then this is his last thought. Thundar, man, thank you, by the way.
Why are you throwing it to a guy who moved a receiver 3 weeks ago on a 4th down? And you're doing a low percentage.
Who's open?
You're seeing you're throwing a low percentage throw to the far sidelines. Very difficult throw. Now he's got the juice for it.
Mm-hmm.
Not every quarterback does, but it's just, and you're throwing it to a freshman who was a defensive back 2 weeks ago even. I mean, he made
with that.
But what I was saying before was I don't understand. You can criticize Seth McLaughlin and say, I want him gone. I don't want him no part of this. What I'm not going to do is put everything on Jalen Milroe because I don't think that is the accurate way to put it. I think there was a lot that went bad today. I think there's a lot that went bad at a lot of different places really this entire season, but Milroe has to be a part of this conversation. What we're not going to do is tiptoe around and act like everything else is everybody else's fault. I did this with Jalen Hurts once. I went to war for that guy in 2017 when Tua Tagovailoa was a true freshman. We had heard about his growth and development all during the offseason. He's doing a great job of not bailing on the pocket too much, but he was doing it in practice. He wasn't under fire. The second he gets into that game against Florida State, he regresses completely. Mm-hmm. He had a very subpar. I mean, I say subpar. It was a very bad game. And I'm writing entire 2,000-word articles defending every single throw that he made, which was only like, I don't know. I remember once it was like 15 or 16 passes.
Who are you talking about?
Jalen Hurts.
Oh, Hurts.
I might have been saying Jalen Milroe. I'm sorry.
No, you said Hurts. I just want to make sure. Because somebody dropped a John Parker Wilson comment on here, which that might. And look, Morehouse. It might be the first person to ever drop John Parker Wilson, a JP Wilson comment. But I like John Parker.
But
he tried to take those tickets back from me, and he knows what I'm talking about.
But one thing I figured out with Jalen Hurts watching him is as it continued to be a problem,
right?
It's like at a certain point, you've got to be able to turn and say, look, for one, whether it's your fault or somebody else's fault, your ability to not get the job done, like I said, whether it's your fault or not your fault,
right.
The quarterback position was not being productive for Alabama that season.
No doubt.
So while I started that year going to war with everybody, and I've got Facebook posts, I got tweets, I got
where
articles.
Were you back then?
Saturday down south.
Saturday down south. Clint's been everywhere, man.
But what I started to do is I was on that hill and I was ready to die on that hill. But as I learned more information, I don't think you should be stuck in one mindset and say I'm seeing more evidence, but I'm refusing to acknowledge it because I want to be right. I didn't care about being right. I was trying to see it for what it is.
Well, who's Jalen Milroe more than me? I mean, I stuck up for, but today in Oklahoma, it's shit. It's just shit. Like, I'm sorry, man. It's just he's better than what he played, and the offensive line is a part of that, and the run game's part of that. But it's at the end of the day, it's like being the CEO of a business. Like, it's if the business doesn't do well, you're the guy that gets blamed for it, man. I mean, it's just that's the job that you're in, right? And I love the guy, but you can't defend this in the Oklahoma game to me.
And the Tennessee game. The Tennessee game was bad, man.
He was bad, but you know what? But yeah, you're right.
For Milroe in particular, I would say, man, I still say as far as the off-target throws and just being kind of all over the place, that still might have been his worst game in my opinion this season. Didn't have the pick sixes, which were back breakers. But you know,
Spencer Pennington comment. I know Spence, man.
My brother, I actually watched the game with him, and he made a similar comment. He has not been the biggest Spencer Pennington fan. Mick, if you stuck me out there to play quarterback, I got to be honest with you, brother. I wouldn't look good, and it's probably because I just wasn't supposed to be playing quarterback. And he was the third string. That was an unfair situation.
It may be personal, but I love me some Spencer Pennington.
I have no idea. I'm sure he's a phenomenal guy. Anytime I make a criticism of a player, I'm never trying to be personal. Say what? Oh,
yeah. So I mean,
we're going to start calling you Mick Pennington, huh?
I'm just going to tell you that right now. I like him, man. But you know, they're like, it's just funny, like reading these comments, like. We hit John Parker Wilson, Spencer. Can we get a Brody comment in here? Where's an Andrew Zhao?
Let's get some Andrew Zhao.
Give me a Freddie Kitchens in this. Yeah, I mean, like all of these are making me laugh because it's time, man. It's time. Whatever Milroe does, it's not going to be at Alabama. Like this was it. And this is the problem that so many of us have. And here's my man Timmons right here. The offense was overwhelming, you know, and everybody's kind of feeling the same way. I'm going to tell you this. Nick Sheridan, you know, first year's offensive coordinator.
Here's what I'll say about him. I have no idea. That's the conclusion. I've watched multiple years of Milroe. So when I'm making more definitive statements, it's like I've seen you, and granted, he's dealt with different play callers, and that's tough. That's really, he's had a different play caller every single year. That's tough to overcome. but I've seen enough where it's like the sample size is there. When Nick Sheridan, I don't know and this is why I say if we're 6 games into next year, there's another quarterback and there's still a lot of these issues. It's like, okay, it apparently wasn't as big of a Jalen problem as some people made it out to be. Maybe it's a Nick Sheridan problem.
Right. And this is 3 losses to unranked teams. What the F?
Like I said, to start this off, the 3 worst good teams they played this year, they lost to.
All right, let me go back to the phone lines, Clint. I'm so sick to my stomach. Thanks for hanging on with us, man. Who's this and where you come from? Hey, you there?
Hey, this is Iceman.
Ice, dude. Ice, baby. Thank you for holding on first off, man. And I appreciate you. Ice, just make me feel better because I don't want to say I'm the shock. I'm just pissed, man. Like I want you to make me feel better about 3, like that last comment, 3 losses to unranked teams, and today to all right, earmuffs, kids, a shitty Michigan team. Clint, I'm sorry for saying it. A shitty Michigan team. Ice, make me feel better. Shitty.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, first and foremost, let's get through the negative first and make you feel better. Let's get through the negative. All right.
Nice.
And then we're going to make you feel better after that. All right. Nick, who was our leading rusher this game? I want you to look it up and tell me the position.
I should go pull the stats.
Hey, I'll tell you right now because I thought it was interesting at the time. It was Rico Scott.
You're not going to like it when you see the position, Nick.
It's Rico Scott.
Rico Scott? It was Rico Scott.
A wide receiver. So first and foremost, everybody that called before me.
What are we doing?
So I want to say this to everyone that called before me. I want to say this to everyone that called before me and after me. If before you go and attack Jalen Milroe, our quarterback, all right, look at that. Look at that. This is a team effort. Before you blame it all on one person, this is a team effort.
Man. I'm with you.
And I got to say this. If Anthony Richardson can get drafted in the first round, I guarantee you for damn sure. Sorry, Clint. For damn sure. Jalen Milroe will get drafted in the first round.
Right.
He is a much better athlete, too. He is.
We're like those. We're those people that Clint hangs with, but he's like.
You ever treat me like I'm Captain America on the Avengers or something? Like I'm like, oh.
I'm a sailor. I like
hooligans that he's hanging out with.
I'm a sailor. I can't help it. I like to season up my sentences some, you know?
I'm pissed too, man. I just want, there's a lot of cuss words, Ice, that I want to say, but I don't want to offend Clint.
Oh no, we're all there. Sometimes you gotta reserve yourself. But that was my biggest issue. I was there. You know, this is the first ever Alabama game I ever went to.
You were at the game.
I grew up pretty poor.
Did you?
I was. Yeah. You know, I didn't come up from a lot of money. Growing up in Alabama, I didn't have a lot of money. I could never make a game.
Yeah.
And being in the military, I'm always across the country. I never had a chance to actually go. So this is my first opportunity I ever got to go, and I'm very disappointed that Alabama lost. But I'm still happy that I got to see them, and I want to start on the positive side. First and foremost, thank you to everybody on the Alabama team that actually stuck around.
Yeah.
Even Milroe. I mean, I'm so glad that Milroe stuck it out because he's one of those guys that we needed the most because he was a true leader to this team.
Right.
And he was like that guy that people would look to and were inspired to play harder.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, did they play harder in some games? No, especially today. They did not.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, Mick, if I went back to 2006 and told you, hey, we're going to have a first-year coach that went 9-4, what would you say?
Yeah, I'd have been like,
I mean,
can I say earmuffs, Clint? Fuck that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to everybody out there.
Yeah. Hey,
Coker's not in here where we cuss on this show.
Yeah. I'm not happy with the way the season ended, but looking to the future, you know, we did beat 3 of the 4 big games we needed. to win. We won those.
We did.
Georgia, LSU, and Auburn. Those were the important games to us, and Tennessee. We could have won that. I think Alabama didn't show up to win that game, but that's fine. You know, especially seeing how they lost to Ohio State. I can't even believe that, so it's fine. But we won those games. We won 3 of those. That's good. And look at what we're doing in the transfer portal. Look at what we're doing in recruiting. I think coming up next year, it's going to be really interesting. I think we're going to be just fine. I'm going to leave it off on this real quick, just kind of talk about the future. I want to get you guys' thoughts. Who do you want to see next year, Ty Simpson or Austin Mack? All right. Thank you guys so much. Roll Tide.
Hey, Ice, thank you, man. Happy New Year, brother. Man, I really appreciate all the calls, and I'm disappointed that that's your first Bama game, but if you want to come to another Bama game in Tuscaloosa, if you can get there, you let me know. I'm going to hook you up, all right?
All right, brother. Hit you up on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm going to get you tickets. All right, Roll Tide, man. Thank you. How about that being your first game?
I'm so sorry.
My first game was the 96 Iron Bowl when we stuck our, you know, we stabbed Terry Bowden and Auburn right through the heart with Freddie Kitchens at the end of the game. Dennis Riddle. I can't imagine this being my first game, seeing that effort. It's just not up to my standards, man. I feel bad for the Iceman. I feel bad for the Iceman.
I do too. And I'll say, first of all,
not good enough.
I want to address this comment. Started the live stream over from the beginning. Hear that Milroe really didn't get all that help this year from the line, et cetera, et cetera. I think we all forget that Bryce was sacked like 40 times. We do not forget that.
Bryce was always on the run.
This is kind of my point. This is why multiple. This is why multiple things can be true. Bryce didn't get help, but Bryce has the ability to elevate and get the job done regardless. Milroe, where the criticism comes in for him, one of the things that you can criticize is we can acknowledge that in a lot of instances he wasn't getting the help, but he does not have the ability to elevate and overcome for those deficiencies. And that, I think, is where you see a very poor combination and why you see 4 losses for the first time since 2007.
Yep, that I agree with you, man. Look, when you're the quarterback of the football team, I mean, you're the CEO, man. It's just the way it is. Like, it's like any other job you have. If you take the job where you're the lead singer of the band, if the band sucks, they're going to be like, well, you know what? Mick Jagger, he's not that good. Like, who knows if there's a guy in the back that's not playing his instrument right? Like, you're still going to take the fall for that, you know? So it's the way that it is. But Milroe's got issues reading defenses, Clint. I think, you know, he's played his last game at Alabama. We can say this, like, you and I both know that. Like, I know where his limitations are, but I also know where his strengths are, you know, and I always looked at, and you guys know this, I always looked at the strengths of Milroe, which is in the red zone, his ability to score touchdowns. You can't take that away from him, man. Like, he is as good as any Alabama quarterback we've ever had when it comes to scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Like, he can hand it off, he can run it, he can throw it, you know. But him reading defenses, if they change the play at the last minute, Clint, like, you know, it's me trying to, like, you know, you read Chinese. I mean, like, it ain't happening, you know. And that's where his Achilles heel is. He's got to figure that out when he's in the NFL.
You look at, someone was saying you can't run the football consistently when you've got a quarterback hindering you like Jalen Milroe. I do want to point out Marshall for Michigan, who is at least their third string running back. He is their third string running back.
Right.
He had 100 yards on 23 carries, and he averaged 4.3 yards per carry. And you add Alex Orji as the starter for half of that game, and you had a former walk-on and Davis Warren for the other half. Right. So you can run the football, but here's the difference in my opinion. I think, if you're going to have a style of quarterback like Jalen Milroe, your schematic limitations become a problem in the sense of you're asking your quarterback to do too many read run plays. And it's not just getting downhill. Your offensive line has a different mindset. It is not mauling people. And when you have that mindset, when you get asked to maul somebody, when it's kind of selective and kind of sporadic, it's tough to get that physicality going. It's like anything else. Like the more you're able to do it and get it going and get it rolling. And it's like when you look at one thing Michigan did, they have the limitations. They have a dual threat quarterback for the second half, at least with Orji. But first of all, he only had 4 carries for 9 yards. They didn't ask him to do much. Secondly, there was still a commitment to which Michigan does it too much. I mean, I'm willing to go that far. I think that there's, Bama needs to go in that direction. They didn't need to go that much, but there was a commitment to the run game to a point where your offensive line can get into a groove. It's backups. Like, I mean, granted, not fully backups. There were still multiple starters.
No, what you're saying is it's backups. Clint.
Yeah,
it is
enough.
backups.
Yeah, it's enough where you say your starters, your 360-pound tackle can't consistently maul people. And just you're setting yourself up for the play calling is so boom or bust that it's constantly setting up. Well, it's either boom or bust, or the quarterback can't execute it properly, where you're always finding yourself in second longs, third and longs. And then it's like the tacklers are like, bro, this ain't my style. Like you talk about putting players in a position to be successful. These types of games are not putting Caden Proctor and Elijah Pritchett in situations to be successful. They're maulers. They're bigger body guys. They are athletes for their size, but you got to have a downhill run game that's not attacking the perimeter a ton with zone read with your quarterback. It's doing more of that. We just did not see that enough this season at all.
Don't be surprised if Alabama doesn't have a different offensive coordinator next year. And I'm just throwing that out there, and it might be a familiar face to Kalen DeBoer. Rico Scott, 1 carry, 28 yards. Jam Miller, 10 carries, 27 yards. Milrose, 16 carries, 7 yards.
Hey, Richard Young, 2 carries, 6 yards. You got the Justice Haynes treatment today.
Yeah.
We were really excited to see him get in this mix. It's like, oh, we'll give you a whopping 2 carries for 3 yards. Granted, they got down. You get down 16 pretty quick. Your chances of getting your running backs the football, and that is another difference between 23 carries for Marshall versus 12 collectively for your 2 running backs, is the fact that Michigan was playing with a massive lead the entire game. Alabama wasn't. That does matter too. Right.
We were as we said when I was growing up, as we were shitting the bed. Hey, Kerry, thank you for the super chat too, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys. Let's go back to the phone lines again, Clint. And then remember, as I bring you guys on, some of you guys have been holding on for a while. Just know you got to throw it out there, and then Clint and I will chew on it. But I love all of you guys, and I cannot thank you enough for sticking around to get on the show. And I'm gonna get you in. So let's go back to the phone lines again. Who's this and where you come from?
Hey, this is Brent from Gunnersville, Alabama. How y'all doing?
Brent, thank you, man, for sticking around this long on hold to get on here.
I'm
sure you're as pissed off as me, Brent. Go get him.
Well, I'm kind of old school. I've been a season ticket holder since 1986. And boy, did we ever go through some terrible seasons.
Oh, I know.
But this I will say, a lot of callers I've heard the loyalty of Milroe. And you'll think, what was the loyalty of Jalen Hurts, a team captain standing on the sideline with a rookie player? At a point in time, the board's loyalty only can carry you so far.
That's right.
Then it hits a brick wall, and it's not going to carry you no further. Milroe, 2 good best games this year. What? Georgia and LSU. What could he done to run the football? Do you remember the reporter interviewing Kirby Smart after that game? Y'all remember what he said, that reporter? He said, we just played the best running back in the country.
That's right.
That can throw the ball occasionally.
Right.
To me I guess I'm just reading into it. The board let him play the game out because of loyalty. Well, where was the board's loyalty to all them other players?
That's right. I hear you.
And when you got wide receivers coming off the field, stomping and throwing their hands up because nobody was within 15 or 20 yards of him, Milroe's never been able to see his feet. Milroe's never been able to read coverage. Milroe cannot throw over the middle. Why all of a sudden is it loyalty to him to let him play the game out? No, the loyalty is doing what you got to as a head coach, like Saban done, and put the best chance out there other than him to win that game for everybody. So that, it stuck in my craw, this loyalty. We're going to play you even if we lose. Well, Hurts didn't get to do that.
Right.
So, we just can't use that. Well, he's been so loyal to the team. Well, them other guys out there on the field are loyal to the team.
Right.
And I think he should have come out the second half with Ty Simpson.
Give him a drive or two.
I think that was the only shot we would have had for DeBoer to be loyal to the rest of the players. It changed the quarterback, just like Saban did with Hurts and Tua.
Yep.
Saban knew in that moment Hurts could not get it done. So he puts Tua in. And Hurts is loyalty. What did he do? He stuck it out another year at Alabama. Not even the starter behind Tua before he transferred that. That's loyalty. But he was loyal standing on the sideline, not playing quarterback.
Right.
I think that was the worst mistake a head coach could have made if he made that he's been loyal. I'm loyal where I work too. But it frustrates me is what it does, knowing that you didn't get the whole team a chance by just sticking with Monroe because he's loyal. Anyway, that's my little rant, guys. I just had to have it.
Well, look,
I can say in my lifetime I've been to 4 national championship games and we're 3-1.
Which one did we lose?
And
which one did you go to? We lost.
I went to one we lost. First one to Clemson.
Oh, me too. I was there.
I was there too.
I went to the 92.
They let them get away with the little crisscross at the end of the game. The pick play.
Yep. I was in Miami in 93 for that game. I was in Rose Bowl for that game and Dallas for that game.
Nice.
And I hope my rest of my lifetime I can at least go to one more.
Me too, man.
All right, guys. I know I carried on too long. I just had a little, it just got my call about loyalty.
Hey, look, Brent. I look. Gunnersville is a beautiful place. I love Lake Gunnersville.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I've talked about him enough on here, but my man Wayne Mills was from up there. Some of you guys will remember Wayne.
Yeah, I do.
You know Wayne, yeah, like the one of the great inspirations in my life is Wayne Mills, and so
I'm a retired firefighter.
Are you?
And that's how. Yeah, my 32 years of service. That's how I got to know everybody. Just about.
Just being about.
Yeah, being around.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
My dad was a firefighter too, man. Thanks, Brent. Roll Tide, brother. Have a great New Year. Thank you.
Roll Tide. Y'all too. Bye.
You. Well, Clint, what do you think, man? I mean, great call from Brent.
I understand exactly what he's saying, and I'm sure a lot of Alabama fans feel the same way. The difference with the Tua Jalen Hurts situation was that Tua had not only come in at the end of games and shown absolute magic and put that on display for everybody, but there was a lot happening behind the scenes as far as, Nick Saban has said the players know who the starter should be. They do. And, they knew that Tua was just in a much better place as far as playing quarterback than Jalen Hurts was at that time. And so when they made that switch, guys were bought into it. They were ready for it. And maybe some guys on this team would have been ready for that decision now, but people's got to understand, Jalen was here. He was part of what Saban had built, and the team loved him. The outsider was not Jalen Milroe. It was Kalen DeBoer.
Right.
And Nick Saban, through his confidence, the fact that he had won multiple national titles, no one questioned Nick Saban until even Jalen Milroe getting benched against USF made some of the players question the great Nick Saban.
Yeah.
So not even that guy, the greatest of all time, could overcome what the team had wanted, which was Jalen Milroe being the starting quarterback. And so you think an outsider in his first season. He's trying to get acclimated. He's going to come in, and you convince Jalen to stay. Or really, you didn't even have to convince Jalen. Jalen was already all in, but he stays. He stays loyal, and you think that guy's going to have the ability to like bench him when it's supposed to be?
No, I got you.
And it's not
same thing with Malachi Moore when he was acting like an idiot.
Yeah, and
the Vanderbilt game, and I like Malachi, but the way he acted was buffoonish, man. Like. And not to say he's a buffoon. I'm just saying the way he acted was right, kicking the football from the
it was bad.
And all the stuff he did, but we still love him. But it was like, what are you doing, man? Like this isn't Alabama football. Can you imagine if Auburn had a guy kicking the official puts the football down and then you run over and kick it from him? I mean,
well, I mean, and
what are we
so
doing?
well, like
what doing?
I'm not saying that Kalen DeBoer he still could have stepped up and benched him, because I do think the way he was playing, I'm sorry, the quarterback is a position, it can provide a spark. Running back can provide a spark. I mean, there's certain positions that can. I just think you needed him to I wouldn't have been against going in a different direction, even though I think on top of all of what I just said, just the fact that it's probably going to be his last game, the narrative and how that kind of follows him through the draft cycle. The guy was, a lot of people argue he was tanking his draft stock himself on the field, but then the narrative shifts to the coach benched him, and now that's a huge narrative and everybody's talking about it. So then he gets blamed for the draft stock tanking, I'm just saying there's a lot of factors at play. I'm not trying to justify, I'm trying to explain what the reasoning and why it was a little bit different than Nick Saban in 2017.
You're the voice of reason for a reason, Clint. Like, I'm not the voice of reason. I'm not over here trying to. I'm just telling you, I'm pissed.
It's crazy to see you mad in that Hawaiian shirt. That's all I'm saying. Like, I feel like you're vibing from a look standpoint, but Bama's done put you in a bad mood, and you're not vibing really.
When this show's over, I'm going on Duval. I might get this tattooed on my arm. I don't know. What I'm telling you right now is, I'm watching this game and I'm going. This is like I sit here and defend these guys, and then they play like absolute dog poop, and I'm like, what am I doing, man? Like, I'm tired of being balled in. All right, let's go to the phone lines again, Clint. Great commentary, and all of you guys, thank you for hanging out with us on the show. Like and subscribe, please. Thumbs up, and be part of what we're doing here at Cover Crimson and covercrimson.com. All right, who's this, and where are you calling from? And thank you for holding.
Hey, Mick, this is Terry from Northport. Look, I don't think I'm going to make you feel any better, because I'm like you. I am pissed too. I just don't understand. I know it's hard to tell, from watching on the television, but looking at the TV, the team compared to the Michigan team just looked uninspired on the sideline. I was talking to my wife, and we were watching game, and we were talking about it. And during the rain, when the rain hit real heavy, the Michigan team was jumping up and down. They were excited. The fans were taking their clothes off, and the Alabama band. The announcer said the Alabama band actually got up and went inside. I was in the band from Alabama from '76 to '79. We would have never gotten up and gone inside for any kind of weather. That was embarrassing, but what it reminded me of was remember when Alabama won, Alabama softball played Oklahoma in that rain delay. The Alabama softball players, the women got all excited. They were playing out in the field during the rain delay, and Oklahoma then knew they were whipped because they knew Alabama was there to play. Alabama just had no emotion on the sideline. That is coaching, and that's one reason why I think we miss Cochran. I just don't see them play with the type of the emotion that they had. They looked uninspired, and I don't know why they're uninspired, because 364 days ago they got their ass kicked by this Michigan team. They had a chance to make up for that loss. Alabama has the most bowl wins in history. They had a chance to add to that bowl, to add another bowl win. They're the second winningest team now, the third with the loss today in history, but behind Michigan. They had a chance to beat them, and they had a chance to show the committee that they deserve to be in the playoffs. Now, look, and the committee is saying that they made the right call. And let me make one last point. With these people that are saying because this is Jalen's last game and that we shouldn't bench him because this is last game. This is the University of Alabama. It's not the University of Jalen Milroe or whatever his last name. I'm sorry, I got him confused with Jalen Hurts. But this is Alabama. We need to do what's best for Alabama. I still remember in 1979, Alabama was playing Auburn. We were undefeated the whole season. We'd been ranked number one. The number one offense fumbled the game 5 times in that game. Going into the fourth quarter with about 10 minutes left, they fumbled again. Coach Bryant pulled the whole with about 8 minutes left. He pulled the entire number one offensive team, set their ass on the sideline, put in the second team offense. Stedman, Shealy, and all them guys were sitting on the sideline saying, "My God, here we are benched, and we're about to lose this game." When they went back in, Alabama was down 18-17. Shealy said nothing would have kept us from scoring because we had gotten our butt benched. We got up off the sideline. They went the length of the field with about 4 minutes left in the game. They drive the length of the field. They scored. They go for 2, and Alabama wins that game 25-18, and they went on to win the national freaking championship, which is what Alabama does. And a great coach knows when to pull a player, put him on the sideline just for a series or two to let him get his head in the game. DeBoer is clueless. I don't have any faith in him. People are saying let him get his own players. He's not going to get any better players than he's had this year. And I'm through. I would like to hear what you guys got to say.
Terry, great call, man. And Roll Tide, brother. Have a happy New Year. And I'm going to tell you right now, Clint, hard to argue with Terry, man. Hard to argue with that.
Look,
because who knows if he's going to get better players than Saban. Saban had number one recruiting classes or number 2 or number 3 every year.
And, I'll go ahead and pull this comment up. I'm always going to, if you're going to.
Are you old buddy Clint? I love
I'm not this
Clint's
guy.
my old buddy.
Not right now. No, I'm just kidding. Look, if you come at me, I take no offense to it.
Clint, can I say this? And look, I'm a few drinks in the bag. I'm not going to deny that's New Year's Eve. Okay. when they brought me to this channel, I was like, you got to bring this guy. So he's my old buddy. I love this guy. I'm just telling you.
I just want
no, Clint, hold on. You're the voice of reason because I'm fucking pissed. Earmuffs. I'm so tired of this. I'm with Terry, man. Pull them all off and bring somebody else in. Don't embarrass the brand, people.
Well, what's wild is because
you got you on the big screen, Clint.
Because what's wild is you've got this too. Like you've got comments like this. I've never understood this. How am I carrying anybody's water? Anytime I try to explain what I think is happening, that is not me saying. Now, granted, I will admit that it's a hard situation to be in. It absolutely is. Nick Saban will tell you to this day it was a really tough situation for him to be in. When he pulled Jalen, he loved Jalen. He was to a point of tears after the SEC championship, just 11 months later. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have pulled him. I think I've been pretty vocal that I would have fully supported him pulling him because he was not playing good football. So I don't know where people are getting this whole like, oh, I'm carrying. No, multiple things can be true at once. Jalen could absolutely be struggling. He doesn't elevate the people around him. He is a guy who does get deer in headlights. But then other things can also be going on. Other factors are involved. There's emotions. Players support him. It's a tough decision to make. I'm not saying that it shouldn't have been made. That's not what I'm trying to argue here. I'm trying to let people know it's not just as simple as, hey, it's Madden or it's NCAA where you can hop on a depth chart and switch into your backup quarterback and no one's the wiser. Everybody's totally, it's the same thing. There's real life emotion I'm trying to explain the decisions and how they're being made. Kalen DeBoer, I've already seen a quote as we're live that has straight up said, actually, I think I can read it for you. I don't think we should pull it up and show it. But he said, I saw, I guess, a fighter, the fight in his eyes. And as long as I see that, I want to hang in there with the guys that this program means a lot to.
Right.
So that's exactly what I'm saying. There has been this loyalty to the guys who stuck around through a very tough transition. Should that loyalty have been that strong? Did that cost Alabama? I would argue in some ways that it did. But what it has done is, as he continues to get more into this process and it becomes more of his program, his team, his guys, what the others are going to look back and see is he had loyalty to his players. He showed them loyalty, and you're not going to have these problems where he's never going to deal with this again, where it's like these guys stuck around. They were like this core. He named them captains before the season even happened.
Yeah, right. Like he appreciated those guys for being there, and like I do too. And I'm not taking them away from him. Shane, thank you for the super chat. I'm gonna put this up here. Thumbs up, Mick. MICK, but no, I'm not holding. I love this, Shane. I love you, brother. But what I mean, look, I'm with you, man. I'm not even gonna read that. I've said that. I don't know what I hate it too, man. Clint, I hate it too.
Yeah, I mean it's. I don't
want to go back to the Shula days. I was in school. Somebody bought me I was at the Hog's Breath Saloon watching this game in Key West, and these Tennessee fans bought me a key lime pie shot. They were nice people. And I'm like, they're talking about, they went to Tennessee and Alabama whooped them every year. And I'm like, when I was at Alabama, we lost to Tennessee every year. And nobody believes me. But I lived it. I was there. And I know a lot of you ladies are going, man, you don't look like you're that old. But Father Time's been kind. But I'm going to tell you this right now. It was terrible. We lost to them every time, Clint. You can lose to your rivals. I've been there when Bama had a bad football program. I don't want that to happen again. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to. DeBoer has some. It's a tough climate with the NIL, and you're replacing Saban and all this other stuff. But you better get it figured out, because losing to these unranked teams is this a barometer of that we're going in the wrong direction, or is this a barometer that the guys on the team aren't taking it seriously? I don't know. I don't like either one. I don't like either answer.
Well, when this becomes some of these things become a multi-year problem, even if it's not through an entire year. Like if you go into next year and you're still showing signs of these problems, where it's like, okay, I get that you want to be loyal to certain guys, but they're struggling. Like you got to make a move. If you're continuing to see what everybody's describing as like a no backbone, didn't have the balls to do it, however you want to put it, I will be right there with you. And I will say, look, he's not. I thought last year was an outlier. I thought he was in a tough situation. He could not make the tough calls, or he at least didn't feel like he could make the tough calls. And now he's still not doing it. So last year wasn't an outlier. I'm going to stop defending him, which I will be 1,000% the one who will step up and say, hey, you know what? This is a much bigger problem. This is more of a common theme with Kalen DeBoer than I gave credit for. And I'll admit 100% that I'm wrong. Let me get 6 games in the next year, and let's just see what looks different.
I'm with you. All right, let's go back to the phone lines again. And remember, Clint, you can't hear Clint, so you make your comments, and we're going to chew on it. And again, caller, thank you for holding on, man. And we appreciate it. Who's this, and where you calling from?
Hey, Nick, it's Stan from LA.
What's up, Stan? How you doing, brother?
Well, I'm numb. I'm so pissed off, I'm to the point of numbness. I've been listening to the callers, and I totally agree with Terry from Northport. I mean, all I wanted this year I wanted to win a football game and show a little grit and a little pride. I wanted to see us, avenge the loss from last year. I wanted to see, some sort of fire in the belly. And all I got was an offensive line that is ridiculously as pathetic as that was all freaking year long. Caden Parker needs to take his ass back to fucking Iowa because he sucks. Pritchard, bench his ass. Find somebody else to put in their place. Bring up the second strings. Do something. Develop your freaking offensive line. Do we have coaching on this team? Because I absolutely don't think we do at all. The way that team looks like a bunch of freaking zombies walking around today. Play calling was horrible. Milo sucked. Of course, he didn't have time to really do anything with that offensive line. But when he did have time, he never made the right read. He couldn't do anything perfectly. The only players that deserve any kind of kudos on this team for this particular game was the defense. They played their butts off, and they kept us in this game for so long. Yeah, Justin Jefferson had a bonehead playing. He shouldn't have did what he did. But you know what? I don't care about that. I don't care about that. They played with fire, and they deserve some kudos. That defense does. But God dang it, you're on the freaking 5-yard line, and they do this every goddamn time. They did it in the Tennessee game. The first and goal on the 5-yard line, and what do? They throw the freaking ball to Williams in the corner of the end zone. He almost got that ball picked off, just like they did in Tennessee. Run the football, for God's sake.
Right.
Run the football. They just don't do anything. They've not learned. This team has not learned how to develop itself and how to make a win. It's like this was Oklahoma, but worse.
Yeah.
It was Oklahoma, but worse. And all I wanted was to see some adjustments and to actually see some pride. This team is lost. I don't understand. And I want to love DeBoer. And I know that he's, we've probably put a lot on him, but, he's obviously got to get his system in there with whatever quote unquote players he wants in there. And we got to give him a little bit of grace in order to do that. But the problem is when you come into a game like this and you have these great recruits looking at you and you go out and you play like this, watch us. We're going to lose. We're going to lose a lot of those players that signed up with us. They're going to walk. They're going to transfer because unless there's some epiphany there or there's some real good salesmanship in that coaching staff, that it's going to give them some sort of inspiration to play to, because they gave them nothing but a big question mark. How many people want to come play for Alabama now when Alabama goes out there and plays a fucking Michigan team that's playing second, third string plays and don't even show up for the damn football game? You want to go play for a coach like that? You want to go play for a team that doesn't show up and play, that doesn't regard their tradition as what they were supposed to do? We had a chance to win 10 games for 17 straight seasons, and they flew out the goddamn window. They just didn't freaking care. I'm pissed. I'm just pissed. Great show, Mick. Can't even smoke a cigar after this. It's horrific.
Hey.
And I pray to God that it's going to get better. That's going to get better somehow or another. That they're going to find an offensive coordinator. They're going to find an offensive line coach. They're going to find somebody who can motivate these players, and perhaps maybe we can get some decent players in who might actually buy into a different culture. And I love Coach Nick Saban and everything, but his days are over, folks. We need to let that thing go. It's done. He's done his deal. All we can do is move on and go forward. You do not look at what is behind, but press on and go toward what's forward. And if you want to, it's your time, Bama. You're either going to have your tradition and you're going to continue it with a new flair, or you're just going to become freaking Shula 2.0. And I don't want that either, Mick.
Stan, I'm not arguing with you, man.
Love you, brother.
Hey, love you, brother. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Thank
love you. I love your show. Love you, Clint. Clint, you're amazing. I really appreciate the fact that you got to do some awesome drugs or something, because you're as cool as it can be. Because me and Mick are over here just throwing. Me and Mick are just throwing bombs, and everybody else is throwing bombs, and you're just cool as a cucumber on the other side over there, man.
That's right.
I love you,
this guy.
You guys. I know y'all be good, and hopefully I'll meet you one day, Mick, down at the floor of Bama or something.
Come on, baby. Come on down to the floor of Bama. I'll be there.
I can't wait to meet you one day, man.
Hey,
all right, bro.
I'll buy you a book.
Love you guys. All I can say is, I wish it was a better day, man. But roll tide. Let's try to keep it together.
Yeah,
that's all I can say. Just hope we can keep it together.
I'm going to tell you this, and great call. I'm gonna hurt some feelings with this, Clint. I'm gonna hurt some feelings with this.
You're not allowed to hurt anybody's feelings with that shirt
No,
on.
I'm just look at this. I've got the Dead Bears surfing and also riding on boats. And I'm telling you, I'm going to be on Duval as soon as this show's over. But I'm going to hurt some feelings with this. Win, lose, or draw, this game meant absolutely nothing. It would have been nice to have 10 wins, but it just didn't mean anything because
it feels like it meant something. It does.
Look, it meant I wanted to win it, Clint. But what I'm saying is that it's just it's not like we lost. It's not like we're Tennessee and we got our ass whooped in front of everybody at the Horseshoe or wherever Ohio State plays, which we wouldn't have. It's just that when the games don't matter, we don't play like they matter. And that's that's a shame, but that's the way we are. And that's a great call, man. I love Stan, and I love the fact that and Clint, you're getting a lot of street cred here, man, for being the guy holding everyone together through this.
Trust me, I'm trying to apply. This is what I do, and with any situation, I've always been this way. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. I try to look at it from their perspective. I try to understand. I don't want to just blindly be mad. I want to understand what's happening. I don't know why, because it's not like Clint Lamb's going to fix the problem, but it's like I want to know the problem.
I love you though. You're like the Dr. Phil of Alabama.
Well, I don't like being. I try to be that on here. You should have heard me. That entire that.
Did you see the message I sent you? It was like what TF is going on? Like during the game, I'm like watching that first half. What are we doing?
Oh man, I got to be honest. When I saw them kicking the football off with 7 minutes left, I don't know.
We're gonna win. I thought we were gonna win.
I didn't. I was my. You know where my mind went? Vanderbilt. When they kicked that. Now, granted,
this is going to be a fun post game.
I was
17-16 win or whatever, and then we just.
I was worried that and especially so when they kicked it off, there's 7 minutes. There's a lot of time. Took a couple of timeouts. But I was worried that it was going to be the Vanderbilt where they weren't going to get the football back. And especially when Justin Jefferson threw that punch and extended their drive, I'm like, man, if they start cranking out a couple of runs, at that point I was not cool, calm, and collected at all. And then, another 3 and out. Michigan's offense is pretty freaking bad, and Bama's defense is pretty good. But then they get the football back and they actually make some plays. Huge return by Ron Williams. We'll be talking about it's not his fall off. I do think maybe there's some freshman wall that he hit a little bit. But he started the year off with 544 yards and 6 touchdowns in his first 5 games. He was averaging close to 30 yards a catch. He had 313 yards over his last 8 and 2 touchdowns. If you would have told me after 5 games, him sitting at 544 yards, if you would have given me the odds of him having a 1,000-yard season, I would have bet I'd have figured out a way to get my parents' mortgage and bet that on it too. I'd have been putting everything on it, and I'd have lost everything. Just that fall. And granted, I do think a little bit of it is just, Ron Williams is a young kid. He's still growing and learning. He's only going to continue to get better. But I also think, play calling at times, offensive line was a problem. Milroe was certainly a problem. Just it's kind of a shame how it all finished.
All right, I got to go to these super chats, and I'm going right back to the phone line. All right, Tide World Order. Man, you throw in those Chuck Thompson comments. Nobody even knows what you're talking about, but I know what you're talking about. Chuck was my hero, man. I love Chuck. So he used to say, Clint, when the Orioles would win, he'd be like, "Ain't the beer cold, baby?" And the beer's cold right now, but it's not cold because we won. It's because it's just what it is. But he isn't happy right now. I got to know Chuck and Betty right before Chuck passed away. It was not that and I don't know if anybody besides Tide World Order knows, but I love Chuck Thompson, man. I wouldn't have done this play-by-play as a career if it wasn't for him. So just you guys, but the great super chat. Thank you. DeBoer needed to have, he needed to yank Milroe. Yeah, I get that. And look, Princess Claw. I am dreamy. I am very dreamy.
I knew you were about to read it, and I said, right as he's about to read this comment, I'm 100% throwing this in there. I love it, Princess. He's just dreamy. Look at that shirt, man. How is this cat not dreamy?
Boom.
That's the big time stuff.
I know. Listen, all you guys, I love all you guys. But yeah, I mean, look, man, he should have yanked Milroe today. But you know what? He's probably like, it's this bowl game. I'm going to pull him out, and this guy stuck by us the way they did. I feel like that's kind of where DeBoer was on this whole situation. Tied for life. I stopped by the when I was in Clearwater, I stopped by the Hulk Hogan store and got a New World Order t-shirt. So I feel like all these comments here are like right up that alley. But this team has no discipline or killer instinct. As a Bama fans, we need to stop caring about the dynasty and care to see a tough and disciplined team. Yeah, look, man, we've got to be disciplined. That's our character, Clint. Like, kind of, it's always been about Alabama knowing that, you know what, like we act like we've been there before. And I don't want that to change. Thank you guys for the super chats, by the way.
You want to go back to the phone lines?
Let's go. Let's hit them up. All right. And you guys that are hanging on the phone line so long, man, I love you for doing it. Who's this and where are you calling from?
This Tobias called out of Phoenix. Hope you guys have a great New Year.
Tobias, man, it is great to hear you again, my brother. How you doing, man? Probably not great. Game.
I should have took my ass to work today. That's all I got to say. But
me and you both, brother.
Here's the thing, guys. Hot seat talk for people out there is silly in year one for any coach, unless he went like 1-10, 1-11. The guy, Kalen DeBoer is not stupid. I wish people would understand that. It's the same guy who's undefeated versus Sark, Lanning, and Kirby. And I do think Kirby Smart is punching a hole in this wall because he lost to Jalen Milroe twice. But here's the thing I think people got to understand. The discipline of the team went downhill when Saban was still the coach. Lots of penalties when Saban was still the coach.
You're right.
The team had a mutiny. They had a mutiny under Saban because he decided to go in the direction of quarterback instead of Milroe. The thing is, we blame 3 different offensive coordinators of Milroe. He's been on this campus 4 years. And the guy still doesn't know where the freaking hot route is. Teams blitz him because they know he doesn't know where to go with the football. Yeah. We have to just, because not you guys, but the fan base has to stop treating him like a 10-year-old playing youth football league. He is limited, and his limitations pop up against teams that can scheme him up, and especially on the road. Because the thing is, like y'all was saying, like Clint was saying, overcoming. In the NFL, these pockets are as dirty as Lake Erie. Hate to say it, ain't no clean pockets in the NFL where you pat the ball all day. You got to make it happen. And you see that with Bryce Young now. I just think that, now personally, I thought he should have benched him at Tennessee because plays were there, he couldn't see the field. He couldn't see the field against Oklahoma. He couldn't see the field today, guys were open. And I'll say this and I'll run. This ain't going to affect recruiting because anyone with a brain knows in your first year as a coach, you got to play with a hand that's dealt. Saban had to do it. Urban Meyer had to do it. Kirby went 7-5 his first year as a head of a 10-win team. I just think that people have to understand college football has changed. Nick Saban's no longer there. When I was a kid, I remember everybody kept talking about Bear Bryant, what happened under him. Yeah. It changed under him. And I'll say this, and I'll run. Thanks for taking my call as always. We have to understand. We could blame Nick Sheridan all we want. I'm not saying the guy's a second coming of, Charlie Weiss or any great coordinator. But was it his fault that the QB turned the ball over 3 straight times?
Right.
In that interception, he never moved his head. Was it his fault that guys were open, he couldn't hit them? I'm not saying this guy's some great coordinator, but can we make judgments based to next year on the system that the guy wants in his thing? And I'll say this and I say thanks, they're going to call again. Today was the first year I really considered starting Keelan Russell day one if he's the best guy. But, hey, you guys have a good one, and you guys have a good holiday, man. Take care of yourselves. Keep doing the great work.
Thanks, you, man. Thanks, Tobias. Great call. Look, I like when people drop the mic, and Tobias just dropped the mic.
I mean,
that was a mic drop, Clint.
It was a good call. I mean, and a lot of people feel the same way. And I'm always Bill O'Brien. He was a respected NFL offensive coordinator. He had Tom Brady. Hard not to have success with Tom Brady. I get that. But he's done pretty damn well with Boston College. He's Tommy Rees was a finalist. When I say finalist, I mean he was very close to getting the job for the North Carolina head coaching job after everybody viewed him as a or at least fans or most fans viewed him as a quote unquote failure in Tuscaloosa. This was a guy who was at Notre Dame. They are very limited as far as wide receiver recruiting and being able to kind of they kind of funnel their offense through their tight ends. They just don't recruit high profile wide receivers. They kind of struggle on that front. But he was well respected there when he was when he did take the job at Alabama. Brian Kelly at LSU was trying to get him to go to Baton Rouge. You can say what you want to about Brian Kelly, but that's a big time head coach. It's a big time program. They wanted Tommy, he wanted Tommy Rees. And then you've got Kalen DeBoer after what we just witnessed at Washington, with that offense, phenomenal offensive minded guy. And people will try to pivot and say it's the Ryan Grubb was the key factor there. No, I do not believe that. Do I think that those two work really well together? They knew each other. They were both at their best with each other. I think that's a completely fair statement to say. But to say that it was all Ryan Grubb, that's not accurate in my opinion. And I guess we'll find out soon enough unless something crazy happens with Ryan Grubb. But this is three different guys who are pretty respected offensive minds. And tell me which one of them ever figured out Jalen Milroe and how to properly utilize him. I think someone will. I think someone is he's such a specific skill set. I think he's got to be in the right spot. Whether that be on the NFL level, maybe if he chooses to stick around on the college level, if that's transferring somewhere else, I have no idea. But understand that we're taking three different offensive minds, and no one could ever figure out how to consistently utilize an offense with him at the helm. I think that is more telling than some are willing to admit.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. All right, back to the phone lines again. Remember, hit your point, and then Clint and I will chew on it. But thank you guys for sticking around with us, man. We really appreciate all of you guys. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, gents, it's Phil in Bay Area, California. Happy holidays.
Oh, what is up, Phil, man? I know you got to be up there drinking some bourbon and going, what the F is going on here, man?
Well, I said that when it was 9 a.m. I can't stand 9 a.m. West Coast kickoff. It's, the only thing worse is actually being at a game at 10 a.m. at the Cotton Bowl in 05. But
hey, I was there. I was there against Mike Leach.
Yep. Guns down. But hey, I just wanted to, first of all, Tobias, who just called, said it all perfectly. So I'll echo what he said. I'm frustrated. Jalen's Jalen, and he's been doing this to us all year. And offensive coordinator can only play cards with the hand that he's dealt. So I'm gonna take the higher approach and say, look, I'm looking forward to a regular off season for DeBoer and the staff. See what changes he makes and have faith in him. And like Clint said, I'm gonna wait until halfway through next year and see what we're looking at from a reality standpoint. But look, I'm just I wanted to say I appreciate you both and what you bring each and every week to the airwaves, because it gives me something to look forward to among many other things. But this is one of the things I do. And so hope you all have a great end to your year. And for a second there, I thought I was listening to Dr. Phil and Harry Carey, but I realized it was Mick Gillispie.
I'm the Harry Carey, obviously,
so,
and he's Dr. Phil.
I did that. No, seriously.
Hey, everybody.
Happy holidays. I look forward to talking to y'all in the new year and many blessings and successes and happiness for you both.
Hey,
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, brother, man. Thank you for holding on, first off. And when I tell everybody, I'm like, man, I love you. I love that guy. I love Phil and Kiki, and Travis, the whole clan of Hastings, man. They're great people. But you're the Dr. Phil. I love the fact that you have become the guy that's the therapist, and I'm the drunk play-by-play guy. I'm going to describe it. Hey, everybody, guess what? We fucking suck.
Can someone please let my wife know that I'm being labeled as a therapist? Because I feel like
kids.
I got a feeling she disagree.
That was like the guy. Your wife's like, I like him, but he's got foul language.
Oh, no. I don't think people realize. I hop on here. I cuss like a sailor. Let's not. Every once in a while, I let a damn.
The other Lamb. I'm at the other.
Hey, are you kidding me? I hope you're not talking about Mr. Austin, because
I met him. It's honestly, man, like it's so hard to get on here because I do like Jalen, but I mean the performance today was garbage, man. And I don't know if it's his fault or what. I get messages from people that have played in Alabama that are like us that cover the team, and the Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and Michigan triad. Can I call it a triad of just absolute blunder? It's been like people are like, what the F are we doing? Like, because we haven't seen this in a long time. And I what I'm hoping is that when DeBoer gets his own players, like, he's got to probably have a Michael Penix type quarterback, and that's not Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe is a super athlete that has some limitations at quarterback, but when I don't know why this is, Clint, but when he starts off bad, it always ends up bad. When he starts off good, he always ends up good. It's so hard for him to make adjustments in the middle of a game. But I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I just think it's so hard for him to adjust.
Well, the one game I would push back on that for this year was Missouri. I thought he started off very poorly, and he ended up, and we all were like, it wasn't an injury, and maybe he starts catching his groove again, starts being a little bit more explosive with the runs. But that is an interesting point, because last year, one of the things that I thought Tommy Rees did a pretty good job of was when the offense, and Milroe in particular, was struggling to start the second half, they would do things, the shot plays downfield. Whether you're talking about against Ole Miss, I mean, that terrible interception in the end zone, the offense was playing really bad football, snaps over the head, doing the whole thing, come out in the start of the second half, and he throws a bomb, gets completely drilled while he does it, ends up being a touchdown. I think Jalen Hill caught that one. And then from that point forward, I mean, you just saw him get up, show a lot of emotion, and now he's rolling. Now he's confident. Against Tennessee, poor first half from the offense, same exact situation. You just really didn't see that as much this year. And I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I will say I need to go back and watch, but man, his vertical ball fell off a cliff. And he had
this whole season.
Well, I mean, we're really to start the year, the first 3 or 4
compared to this year, though.
Just last year was the entire year, and I'm like, this level of vertical passing, there's no way it's sustainable. And he does it for there were a couple of games, hit or miss, but for the most part, for the entire season. Then he gets into the beginning of this year, and he's still, now granted, it's Western Kentucky, it's USF, it's Wisconsin, so you're like, okay, but still. It's now just an even larger sample size. And you're like, this is a huge part of Jalen Milroe. This is a huge part of what makes him successful. Stretch, defenses vertically, and then open things up, for his legs. And then when you try to account for both of those two things, which is already difficult enough, then you get the Georgia game where he's like, hey, this guy can utilize, if you're leaving him open, mid-range, short to mid-range, he's going to be able to capitalize and take advantage. But then it just it fell off of a cliff and it never came back. And it was just, it was unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back to the phone lines again. And all of you guys for hanging on, man. Thank you so much. All right. Let's go back to the phone lines again. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, man. This is Hugh calling from Phoenix, man.
From Phoenix, Arizona, or Phoenix City, Alabama?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, I love me some Phoenix. I'm a Scottsdale guy, but I love Phoenix.
We're 10 minutes away from Scottsdale.
I know. I'm familiar, man. So what'd you think? Tell you got to come in here and kind of be the in between guy between me and Clint.
Hey, man. I think it's really all over. I think it actually started the moment Nick walked in there and offered up his resignation. I think the season became disjointed from that moment going forward. And sometimes things just take place, man. It's just hard to explain. And I think there are like 5 or 6 or maybe 7 guys. I got family down there that's doing some things down there. And it's about 5 or 6 guys that held their team together. Because guys were going all over. Guys were being poached. And it's about 5 or 6 of those guys that actually held their team together. And Milroe was one of those guys. But saying that doesn't excuse him from some of those cats were running open throughout the day today. And it was a combination of him not I think he was seeing ghosts out there at some time. And I just think he just didn't see the field. He just didn't see the field because I saw on a couple of occasions like guys were running wide open, man, that could have walked in for touchdowns. But I think the season just got away.
Do we lose him? Big. I still see Mick moving, so I don't know.
Just think, I like DeBoer. I think there's some things he's got to tighten up on. And I think some of the discipline, he's going to have to tighten up on some of those things, man. Because at times, Bama looks like one of the most undisciplined ball clubs in the country. He's going to have to tighten up on that. But I want him to come in and implement his program, have a full season to recruit, talk to guys. He's going to probably lose a coach or 2 off the staff, bring his people in, and let's see how he do in season 2.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, that's all we can hope is a season 2. We're not blowing games to teams who are better than every week.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not a lot to ask. I mean, you looking back and you're going, well, we lost to Vanderbilt. Okay, I mean, maybe Vanderbilt caught us at the right week, but we still lost to Vanderbilt, and then we lost to earmuffs, Clint, shitty Oklahoma. And even shittier Michigan.
I think that Oklahoma game.
Terrible.
That's the game. I was like, man, that didn't look right. That didn't look right. NIL to a degree has leveled the playing field, but we still have enough talent to beat Vandy. Okay, but Vandy is, they made improvements. Tennessee is Tennessee. I can get with that. But that Oklahoma game just left a bad taste in my mouth. And I don't want to knock DeBoer because I think at going forward with the NIL and these guys I'm not going to call these guys no names and things like that. But I think going forward with the NIL era, I think DeBoer is the right fit for a program.
Yeah,
I hope like that program is Bama. I like him. If guys are thinking he's not Nick Saban, he's not going to dress down his guys on the field.
Yeah.
If you'll see him throw his hat, but most of that is geared towards the officials. He's not going to dress down his guys on the field. So Bama old heads got to understand that Nick Saban is not coming back through that door anymore. And you got to move forward with what you have. You got to give this guy an opportunity to right the ship. The ship got off of balance this year. So give him an opportunity to right the ship and see where we are this time next season, which I think we'll be in a better place next season with this guy going forward. Get the recruits in. Let him implement his, because Milroe, I can tell you, the offense that we saw this year will not be the offense that will be implemented next year.
You're right.
Because Milroe can't read off safety, and anybody that watches football know he rarely, if ever, throws medium to deep balls over the middle consistently. Now he'll hit one or two every 4 or 5 or 6 games, but consistently check downs. He can't make a simple check down pass to his running back or his tight end where you can get 4 or 5 or 6 yards. I think they lived on making big plays when they could have just dink and dunk the ball down the field, go score a touchdown, win the game today, and get out of there with a 20-19 victory.
Right.
And we were set up with a wonderful punt return.
Yeah, we were.
So
we should have won this one.
Start using your running back.
That's right.
We should have won that game.
We should have won.
Run that ball. 2 minutes. You had enough time to open up that playbook and run that ball with some of them guys.
Yeah, we did.
And he's the best running back on the field. He's the best running back on the field that can throw a little bit.
I know. And that's the thing that surprised me. I kept saying he's going to run it in. He's going to run it in. And then it's like we're throwing like fade passes and stuff. I'm like, we're throwing fade passes. Where did he's been all? We don't even throw fade passes, Clint. We don't even throw fade passes, but we're going to do it in the last game.
Like the previous caller.
I mean, come on, man.
The previous caller said on the first and goal, I think it was, he threw a fade pass to Ryan Williams in the end zone that actually should have been picked off.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen that play 3 or 4 times this season, and the defense, Wink is a pro coach. And going against that defense, man, he knows how to make the adjustment to take away that what you like to do the most. And they weren't going to let Jalen beat them consistently running the ball to the outside. They weren't going to allow him to do that. So he was going to have to make passes, read defenses, to make plays. And he wasn't consistent with that.
Right.
But saying all of that, I took my hat for him sticking around
and
keeping that team together. Because if he didn't, Bama was going to end up like Florida State.
And that's why I like him, man. That's why I love him. Number one, man. I'm with you on that. And you know me, I never forgot that.
No, it's hard to forget that, man, because while we lost 4 games, there was a possibility we could have lost 6 or 7 games, man.
That's right.
If that Exodus had a stage left going out that door when Nick walked into that meeting and retired.
Right.
And when Nick retired, 5 or 6 or 8 guys were on the phone making phone calls and taking phone calls the moment Nick retired. I'm telling you, when Nick retired, there were 5 or 6 guys. The moment he got out of there, guys were making phone calls, getting out of there.
Yeah, man, I'm with you, man.
So, so I love your show, man.
Thank you.
I love what you do. I've called you one other time, I think a year or so ago, but I appreciate you, man, and Happy New Year to you guys down there, man. And it's gonna get better. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. Let's see what we're doing in season 2 with under the DeBoer era.
Hey, great call, man. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
Yes.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Great call.
All right.
All right. Great call. And Clint, that's the last of the calls. But with that said, we got some super chats. But look at who we got in the house.
Hello.
What, EG? What's up? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm catching up on all of the player interviews to give you guys some insight onto what's been happening while calls have been made on here, and you guys are going to kind of catch up on what's been said in Tampa here in the last couple of hours.
I just want to know, Clint's asking this question. He wants me to ask you, is that digital background or is that really your background?
No, this is really the background here.
Look at that.
I'll show you guys.
Man, that is a hangout right there.
A beat down like today would have been a lot better with a view like that.
Man, that's like hanging out with the Lambs is like, like the lap of luxury.
The Penningtons. That's the Penningtons.
Well, what'd you think about the game? Just go ahead and tell everybody what you thought and We'll start
Yeah.
there.
So I will say it was a little different not actually being there, usually in that sideline role watching the game unfold. But I will say I was a little glad I was not when the rain started coming down and that
Oh,
turned
yeah.
into sun coming out. And I can imagine only
Mhm.
how humid it was. But one of the things that I was wondering, along with you guys, I'm sure, and I don't know if it's been touched on yet, was how bad the Alabama players were slipping on that field compared to the Michigan players. So, Jalen Milroe was actually
Great point.
asked about this. Yeah, he was asked about it. And I was talking to Jim Dunaway about this, and he said, usually when you have bowl games, he said, obviously I'm speaking under previous regimes, right? That when they do these bowl games or college football playoff appearances, they have a truck full of every kind of cleat that you can think of.
Yeah, he's
And
right.
it shouldn't really be
That's
an
right.
issue for too long, right? Like usually there's an issue and it gets addressed pretty swiftly. So Jalen was asked about this, and he said that he did change cleats. And I think we saw kind of the progression of, okay, something needs to be changed here. It took longer than I expected, but then of course, the sun came out and things dried up and Alabama kind of got some momentum going. But I did think that was interesting. And just hearing back what Jalen had to say, along with Tyler Booker, Tim Keenan was also available in postgame. Jalen had some very kind things to say about the coaching staff, along with Tyler Booker. And I'm going to read you guys what Tyler Booker said when he was asked to kind of evaluate Kalen DeBoer in the staff's first year. He said, they did a great job. Coach did a great job. People are going to probably laugh at me when I say that, but you've got to understand that their first act of duty when they got here was retaining the team. And I know you guys touched on that loyalty factor with Kalen DeBoer and if that hurt the team, but stay with me here. Especially in the era of NIL and a bunch of guys leaving. We also got a bunch of guys to come in. To do all of that, to have a great recruiting class that they just recruited in, and to go out here and really battle in the SEC for the first time, I think they did a great job. There's obviously things we could have done better as players, things they could have done better as coaches, but there's always going to be room for improvement from top to bottom. And he'll be the first one to tell you that. I'm just very thankful and blessed to have had this coaching staff, and I'm glad that Coach DeBoer came here.
Great comment. It's this type of game. I mean, we talk about all the guys playing and just how big of a deal that was, and guys want to go out the right way, and then you get on the field, and this is how it looks. The players wanted it to be a different result. I don't think anybody's denying that. But what is their mentality as far as how this whole thing went down, how they'll kind of view this season? Obviously, they respect what Kalen DeBoer has come in and done, and I do think it's important that they brought up the fact that roster retention was priority number one when he got to Alabama. But just what were some vibes as far as how they feel like the season has gone?
That's an interesting question. I think, obviously, from a media standpoint, when I'm in those rooms, a lot of the questions that the fans want answered, and this goes for any college football team I've covered. I've covered Georgia Southern, where I went to school. I cover Auburn right now, along with Alabama. And the questions that we all want to know don't often get answered by the media. And that there's a little bit of fluff there. There's a little bit of padding. But I do think that there's an air of disappointment in the sense of that 10-win mark is so important to Alabama as a program, and they didn't reach that point. I think Jalen did have some kind things to say in terms of, what the coaching staff has to offer and going forward. There's a very talented group of players, but at the end of the day, after you see a performance like that, those words don't really help you, right? No one really wants to hear the niceties. You want to hear things more straightforward, and that's been a complaint of Kalen DeBoer all season. And we've talked about it on this show, guys, that he is the same after a loss like this, after a win like Georgia, after a loss like Oklahoma, after a win like LSU. He's going to be so even-keeled. And I think that some people are wanting him to react a little more, to have a little more fire behind him. We did see him laying into Justin Jefferson on the sideline, which I think a lot of people appreciated, especially after such an undisciplined just moment that he had. And that seemed to be a struggle all season, with people criticizing him, saying, hey, you need to step in more. We go back to the Malachi Moore incident. Obviously that got cleared up. He apologized, but still that's been, a blemish on Coach DeBoer's record from a fan perspective for sure.
I mean, I feel like that's a very legitimate criticism, man. I mean, like, I've never seen a guy run over and kick a football when the official puts the football down. Then Malachi, and I like Malachi. You guys know it. Actually, I love Malachi, but I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that before, even in Little League, Pee Wee football, like, but I hope that Alabama gets it figured out. This game, if we would have won this game, we'd had 10 wins and all that stuff. But you know what? We still wouldn't have won nothing. Like, this game didn't win anything. It would have been just like a pat on the back, because it's all about the college football playoff, and that this wasn't the college football playoff to me. It was just like a bowl in Tampa where Milroe looked like the bad Milroe, and everybody that didn't like Milroe is going to be like, well, this is why it's time for him to move on. And I mean, it is time for him to move on. And, we've talked about it already. Like, it's about a new era of Alabama football, whether that's Ty Simpson, whether that's Austin Mack, or whether that's Keelan Russell that's coming in, and Bama fans need to be happy about that. But at the same time, there's also a bit of concern where you're like, hey, the Saban era is over. What if we drop off from where we're at right now?
I mean, that's valid, right? You don't really know what the future holds, especially in this new era of transfer portal and NIL. I heard you guys make the comment that DeBoer may not have the talent that he has right now going forward. And Coach Womack often referenced that. So for those that don't know, I'm down at Bama 3 to 4 times a week during the season, and I'm getting press conferences, I'm getting player availability, and then those coordinator and position coaches availability as well. And I remember I want to say it was Jahad Campbell said that Coach Womack, or actually it was Malachi Moore, said Coach Woe isn't used to having as much talent as he has with us when it comes to the defense. And I thought that was pretty interesting, especially, seeing how the season played out, because that was about mid-season there after the Vanderbilt loss, I want to say. And so going forward, I think Alabama fans, there's also been a lot of discussion about, the inactivity of sorts in the transfer portal. I do think there's been some really great gets, especially Isaiah Horton out of Miami, and there's had some good linebacker additions, Cam Calhoun being one of them. But it's kind of a wait and see moment. And I don't think Alabama is necessarily used to that. Obviously, you're coming off of Nick Saban, right? I think that it would be wise to, see what Kalen DeBoer can do with his players in. And I think we would all agree on that he was in a tough spot. And Clint, you said it, he will never be in that spot again at Alabama and having to recruit a team back. He's going to get his guys in. He's going to get a quarterback that mirrors more of the Michael Penix, what he kind of ran at Washington. And will there be some staff changes in the offseason? I would expect that. I'm not exactly sure which positions, and I'm not going to say definitively of anything like that, but I do think you're going to see a very different team, even, come spring.
Granted, I'm guessing you would have gotten just the typical, that's something I'm going to talk about with my family, whatever. But I just at least want to get some sort of, definitive answer, because, I mean, obviously we've been doing this. Were any of the players, Tyler Booker, Jalen Milroe, were any of them asked about looming draft decisions?
Yes, and I was going to get to that. Both of them have elected not to make a decision yet. They're still deciding, again, with their families. Jalen did say he wants to kind of soak in the moment, and a lot of people are taking that as a kind of a weird statement to say, considering you aren't walking away with a win. You don't really want to soak this in, but he did say he's not going to make a decision, and that was the same with Tyler Booker as well.
Interesting. Yeah, because, I mean, granted, I'll continue to say, and I will hop on here and fully admit that I'm wrong if I do, in fact, end up being wrong, but I do think he's played his last game in Alabama. I think that looming NFL draft decision, I think it's either heading that direction or I think it's leaving and going somewhere else. I just don't know that this marriage is going to work. And I'm not saying it's, completely on Jalen Milroe's shoulders. I just feel like that, we've seen it. It didn't really, it seemed to regress, actually. They played better at the beginning of the year. Jalen was more effective. I think second half of the Georgia game, once they figured kind of Jalen out and they kind of put the blueprint out, I think a lot of other people, they didn't completely mimic it, but you did see him start to struggle. What is your vibe as far as the way that this season has gone? A lot of fans right now, and this is just the nature of the beast. I mean, you're at Alabama, the pressure's there. It's not all, sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya. Like, there's going to be pressure. There's going to be, outrage. And Alabama's now lost 4 games for the first time since 2007. kind of what's your vibes on kind of things? Hey, are you are you stepping in on this one? You're acting like you're just now learning that they lost 4 games.
I guess I'm thinking like 2007. I remember being in the one of
not
the
6 games though. That's
I was in one of the boxes when we lost to Louisiana Monroe. Like sitting in there, like, are we really losing to Louisiana Monroe? And we did. So anyway, just not the derail what you're doing here.
No, it's fine. I just was wondering, from your perspective, EG, like what is your vibes? Because one thing about it, I mean, I think Mick and I, we get, fans obviously that are watching, listening, whatever, they get emotionally attached to these things. But from an outsider's perspective, I mean, what's kind of your vibe?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question because I have been around this team. I got 1 season with Saban, and then I saw the whole transition of Kalen DeBoer into this role. And what I've heard, from people that I speak to about the program is that Kalen DeBoer, one of the things that was so appealing, and it's so appealing to players, is what we just talked about. He does not get too high, he does not get too low, and he builds a culture through that. And he's approachable. He is a player's coach, and that is a very sharp juxtaposition to what you saw with Nick Saban and how he handled things, even how he handles media guys. Like, I'll be down there in that room, and the way that he speaks to us too is so different. He actually gives you more than you actually expect to hear at times, while also being very strategic about what he actually says. He's very approachable. And he, I do think that he would not have taken this job if he did not know what the expectations were. Now, obviously, I think that a lot of us in agreement in the media said, I don't think you fully understand this job until you lose a game. And that's when it sinks in what the expectations are, what this really means. And until they took the field, you didn't really know what that transition was like. But one thing I have heard is that, Coach DeBoer, he didn't view this job as having to follow behind Saban's footsteps. That was a lot of discussion this time about a year ago, is who wants to take that job? Why would you want to take that job? You're almost set up for failure. And that was not Kalen DeBoer. And then you even look at his family with his wife, Nicole. That was another praise, was that she is not trying to be Miss Terry. They want to be their own entity going forward at Alabama. And again, I'm not going to sugarcoat things or, try and say that, just, wait a second and it'll all get better. We can't say that. I can only say what I see when I am down there and covering this team. But I do think that I stand by going forward. This will be a very different looking team, because I think when you have your own guys too, the discipline can be a little different, right? You're having to recruit your own roster back. The dates of when the transfer portal closed and opened when Saban retired, it was anyone can cherry pick Alabama's roster, but they couldn't bring anyone in. So that has the value of guys like Jalen Milroe and Tyler Booker, Jahad Campbell, Malachi Moore really coming around this team and getting them to this point, not saying that, this is acceptable to an Alabama fan at all, but it does kind of show what the position Kalen DeBoer was thrown into.
All right, look, guys, I've said it, since we've been doing this. You send us a super chat, we're going to read it. So let's go to and I've got an all-star panel now. No offense to you, Clint, but once we add EG, that's,
Yeah. What I will say about the whole running back situation, or Milroe and kind of how it relates, and a lot of people feel like Josh Jacobs should have been the starting running back in what was that, 2018?
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
But Damian Harris had elected to come back. He had kind of, didn't really get what he was looking for as far as the NFL draft, but he still could have gone. Probably a lot of people were thinking, late day 2, early day 3. He elects to come back. Nick Saban viewed that, and it's like, if I want guys in the future to come back when they have these looming NFL draft decisions, I can't have Damian Harris come back and not give him the same role that he had last year. Because if I end up, putting him on the bench or letting Josh Jacobs be the workhorse or whatever, and that ends up taking his draft stock.
He's right. You can't take that role away and you'll lose the team. But if you give that role to him and then have him,
it can hurt future guys who are making similar decisions. Like, hey, I remember what happened with Damian. he elected to come back and he fell off a cliff, so it was like, in Damian, there wasn't a whole lot being sacrificed when Damian was out there. He's still an effective running back. He was not Josh Jacobs, and
he's a great one of us.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. And so, that's kind of, I compare that to what's going on with right now with the loyalty. It's like, when you're Kalen DeBoer, you want to do everything in your power to reward the loyalty. Because you want other guys in the future in an era of college football that really has it almost feels like zero loyalty, when you want to squeeze every ounce of that loyalty that you can possibly get. So I think that it's like it's a lot more than just simply, there's emotions involved, there's feelings involved. I know people don't want to hear that. But that's
well, let me ask you this, like with this comment here from Keith, and thank you for the super chat. He feels like they were handcuffed because he had to play Milroe. That Penix Penix is one of my favorite all-time college quarterbacks, by the way, and it started in Indiana, not just at Washington. But my point is, is he handcuffed by that system? Did he feel like he had to play this guy because of the fact that he came back?
Yes, I mean, I mean, you might have a different opinion, but that's and it's not that Jalen had been the starter. He had finished number 6 in the Heisman. It's like, what if Kalen DeBoer comes in and immediately is like, yeah, this isn't my guy. We're going in a different direction. Some fans would have loved that and they would have supported him. But from an outsider's perspective, from even a recruiting perspective, you're like, man, this guy seemed to have a lot of success this past season. And then this new coach comes in and immediately acts as him. And that would have been a bold statement, I guess. But it just feels like I think when you talk about guys who are already on the roster, you're talking about outside perception. I thought it would be more of like, hey, you got a new head coach. They will probably open up a quote unquote quarterback battle in the spring to see how it goes. I was completely wrong on that. It was Milroe from the jump. Todd never really seemed to have any sort of opportunity. I'm sure if he would have been good enough in practice, maybe he would have forced his way into an opportunity. I don't know. I can't speak one way or another, but just kind of, I mean, do you feel the same way, EG?
Yes and no. I mean, I think when it comes to having an opinion on it, I don't really have an opinion, but what I will say is that observation-wise, Jalen Milroe was very different than the quarterback that Kalen DeBoer and co is used to, and Nick Sheridan, complete polar opposite. So they're having to, mold the game around his strengths, and his strengths, he's a running quarterback. Now, what was interesting was after the Oklahoma game, it was the first time that, in my opinion, after what I had seen, that we saw criticism of Jalen Milroe from Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer. And it was in the context of him not getting north to south. It was a lot of east to west. And we saw that again today, right? But that was the first time I felt like, okay, they're criticizing and they're saying this is an area that he needs to get better at. And up until that point, we hadn't heard anything along those lines.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point.
Let's go. Well, let me throw this up, Clint, before you even go. Clint's spot on regarding Milroe. Various schemes don't fit.
You must have quit.
Yeah, like that. Is that from the OJ trial?
Yeah, that's
but I mean, your thoughts. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Brandon, for the super chat, man. Roll Tide. Thank you, man. We love you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel that way. And
would you quit? Would you quit?
I think that you've got to. We don't know with Sheridan. That's what I've said, and I'll continue to say. I feel like we kind of know at this point what Jalen Milroe is. He's gone from year 1 as a starter to year 2. Normally, that's where you see the biggest leap in growth. Some guys maybe don't make as much progress because they do have a new system. They do have a new, play caller. That certainly affects things, but it just feels like you didn't. Not only did you not see growth from him year to year, even though I guess you did see a little bit of a spike early in the season. I thought he was doing more as far as going through progressions and doing all that, but just the regression. And I don't know. I mean, something might end up coming out later. I mean, he's been dealing with an injury all season. I have no idea, but just I think at this point, what you've seen from Jalen Milroe in Alabama's offense is kind of what it's going to be. He will be a slightly better player in some ways, should he choose to come back. But you're also going to have an entire another year of tape that you're putting on display for opposing defensive coordinators and defenses and all that stuff where, it's tough to like Cam Newton had his success in 2010 and he bounced to the NFL. We never saw defenses have to go against him when they had an entire offseason to prepare for what he does well, what he doesn't do well. Joe Burrow had his magical, he had been a starter, so it wasn't like it was, the same thing. But when he became the Joe Burrow that we saw in 2019, he was that guy, and then he bounced. Bryce Young, that's a guy who had a lot of his success as a sophomore, ends up coming back and injury played a part, but I actually think he was a better player. But from a production standpoint, he saw a steep decline because how he had to win was different because how defenses were playing him were based off him having an entire offseason to kind of game plan against him. Milroe would be dealing with the same situation. He already was to an extent.
Right.
We just didn't know what it was going to look like with Kalen DeBoer. And now a lot of people do. I just think the ceiling's kind of already there. I think a change of scenery could do wonders for him, and I think it would help Alabama too.
All right, let me go back to these comments, and then, as we kind of finish up the show, Iceman, one of our best friends here on the post-game show, I just want to see the team get back to running backs taking over the game. We haven't done that since Najee. You guys know that. I mean, I'll start with you, Clint, and then, EG, you can jump in. But I see it too. I mean, we had a wide receiver that got one carry.
A wide receiver that led the team. Yeah, I don't know if you realize that, EG, but Rico Scott, who is not only just a receiver, he wasn't even a starting receiver until this game. Didn't start, but he was, in three wide receiver sets. He was a quote unquote a starter, but he ended up leading the team in rushing yards. Just they didn't find a lot of success on the ground in this game, and they haven't all year. I mean, I thought Richard Young would get a little bit more run. He gets the Justice Haynes treatment. He gets 2 carries for 6 yards, and they're like, instead we'll give, high double-digit carries to Milroe, and we'll get Jam Miller is typical, just 10 carries, barely breaking double digits. But a receiver led Alabama in rushing yards today.
It's crazy. And one thing that kind of brings up for me is one thing I asked Coach Sheridan was, and this was after the Oklahoma game. I feel like I keep referencing that game, but I feel like it kind of mirrored today's game in a lot of ways, especially with the early turnovers, was how did he feel like the in-game adjustments complemented the game plan heading into Oklahoma? And one thing that he said that was interesting was, when they think of adjustments, they think of plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and you just kind of go from there. But I think a common complaint, and it, plays a role in the run game, was that Alabama didn't make in-game adjustments that really made sense to a lot of people. And that was a criticism that even national media was discussing throughout the season when it came to the run game, is like, if you're going to commit to it because it's working. And then it would seem like you'd get some momentum, and then, suddenly there's no momentum because you're committing to something not fully, but you're seeing progress with it and progression with it. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with those in-game adjustments that from, my perspective, I felt like that was a continual issue. And you look at the first half of the Georgia game, right after, Georgia figured it all out, Alabama did not change what they were doing in the slightest. And I actually talked about it this morning on SEC This Morning with Chris Doring and Peter Burns about how if you look at that game and you think back to that Ryan Williams catch, if he doesn't make that catch, Alabama's sitting at, potentially 8-4 on the season. And that's interesting to think about, and how those in-game adjustments really weren't made throughout the duration of the season.
Great point.
Yeah, don't come on here with all this logic. All right.
Hey,
let me pull this last one up here because I've got big plans on Duval here in Key West. Not that I don't want to hang out with you guys for another 5 hours.
No, you guys are both just sitting at a beach. I mean, if you're going to see Alabama lose a football game, sure would be nice to see some water.
I didn't expect us to lose, Clint.
All I'm seeing is Shane Beamer trying to fight a ref in the middle of the field.
I'm watching LSU and Baylor.
Get on the South Carolina game.
I need to switch for our friend Chris. All right, is it just me, or is this team play the level of their competition? Matt, thank you for the super chat. And this was one of the big problems when Gene Stallings was head coach, and then after he left, I always felt like, as much as I love Gene, he was great. But it always felt like we're going to we play Tulane, where it's going to be a close game. We're going to play La Tech. It's going to be a close game. Like, we're going to play Vandy. It's going to be a close game. And then we're going to go play the big dogs, and we're going to beat them, you know? Like, there is something to playing to the level of the competition. Saban never did that, and it's why he's the GOAT. You know, it didn't. He was going to whoop your ass. He didn't care. It was him. No, you know, no offense, but Vandy, you're going to lose by 40 because we're going to be in here ready for you. You know, we didn't do that this year, guys. And so I agree with Brandon. Or with Matt. Thank you, Matt. Great message.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there too. It just feels like, and this is what I don't like about the approach. You know, people talking about, it was the plan all along for Miami to see, you know, their backup Emory Williams in the second half of that game. That's fun. That kind of does change my take as far as like the emotional side of it for Cam Ward. But when you approach things that way, when you are, hey, we just really want to get an extended look at this guy. Okay, then this game really doesn't mean a whole lot to you. Like, winning is not the main priority at that point. That's how it starts. And then these meaningless bowl games that you're tinkering and you're trying different things with, then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're just playing, you know, an FCS opponent. They're, you know, I mean, it doesn't even matter. Like, we don't have to prepare for them as much. And then, you know, that becomes like, I mean, I understand that it's a Power 4 program, but they haven't had a winning record in 10 years. I mean, they're not that great. And then all of a sudden you're playing 6-6 football teams and you're losing games you're not supposed to lose. You're playing 7-5 football teams and losing games when you're a double-digit favorite. You know, so it's like it seemed like Kalen DeBoer, and then we're taking a different approach. Like, guys were not opting out. Seemed, you know, Jalen Milroe was the plan was for him to play, for others to play. I did see pretty early in the game, you're seeing like Danny Lewis. Rico Scott was expected shorthanded as far as, you know, some of the receivers, but you're seeing, you know, a couple of offensive linemen, Will Conformby, come in. You're seeing Gino Vandermark, who has rotated in some, but you're seeing, you know, Keon Keeley on the defensive side of the football. Like, you know, you're seeing some guys that you haven't seen before. And I do feel like it was like I started to get this feeling like, okay, they're getting added reps because you want to help for next year. But once again, like, I'm going to be consistent with that. I don't agree with that approach. But what I do know for a fact, and I don't know if this is the reason, but I know Alabama lost to a 6-6 Vanderbilt team, 7-6. I know they lost to an Oklahoma team that finished with a losing record. I know that they lost to a Michigan team. Yeah, lost to Navy. That they lost to Michigan, who finished 7-5 in the regular season. I guess 8-5 now. So it's like they're losing to teams they're not supposed to. You've got to, and this isn't a Kalen DeBoer exclusive problem. But one of the things that you didn't get with Nick Saban, and I'm sorry, I know people don't like me bringing him up and comparing everything to him, but there's a reason he didn't have these types of losses. He treated, he was the same consistent man, no matter who his team was playing against. Really, it was actually quite the opposite. You could argue he would start being a bigger hard ass when they were playing, you know, and Jake has talked about this on your show.
Talked about it on our shows.
Yeah, I mean, he would be even harder on his players to make sure they got the message. We're not doing this. We're not relaxing because it's the Citadel, or we're not relaxing because it's, no offense, Georgia Southern. You know, so it's.
I love that. Throw it right at her.
I'm sorry. I was, you know, it was you know, shit through a tin horn, right?
No, I was about to bring that up. As a very proud Georgia Southern grad, I always say that I don't have a dog in the fight because my team is in Statesboro, which makes my job a little easier when it comes to covering these two programs. Georgia Southern, that t-shirt is still our best-selling t-shirt, and that quote, if you head down to Statesboro, is everywhere. But you know what prompted that question and answer from Coach Saban back in the day was, you know, he said, you guys don't remember the Georgia Southern game, do you? And it was true. He said guys got complacent, and it was you know, are you going to let the younger guys play? Well, why should they? There's talent at, you know, the group of 5 level, and I'm the biggest group of 5 advocate, you know, ever because of my pride and allegiance to Georgia Southern. But you make a great point, and I'm just happy that Alabama and Georgia Southern have that little sweet connection of that t-shirt. Yeah,
it's a respect right there. I know they had Nick Saban's respect going into that game, but I think they had Alabama fans respect exiting that game.
Oh, he loves it, man. He loves it.
Yeah. I mean, that's because
I'm a big
he
Cole
used that.
Swindell and what's the other guy's name? I love Cole Swindell. They're two huge country singers from
Luke Bryan.
Yeah, Luke Bryan. Yeah, but I'm a
go.
Cole Swindell guy. So, both of those guys are from down there. All right, final thoughts, man. 2 hours and 18 minutes, guys. I'm getting thirsty. I got to get off this. You know, Clint, I love you and I love EG, but we gotta wrap this up because I gotta hit the street tonight.
I totally get it.
Celebrate 2025. Tell me, Clint. Tell me what everybody wants to hear. You tell them right now.
Well, first of all, if I was at a beach like one of y'all two, I'd have been gone. I wouldn't have not have been here 2.5 hours in. I'll tell you that. Y'all are way better than me.
Hey,
secondly,
it's for the people. Thank you.
I just want to let you know if you're ever sitting around thinking, what could I get Clint? What's something I could buy Clint? The shirt you have on, just make it an XL. And then not yours. I can't handle the me and you are two different size dudes. Give me an extra large, but I just want to put it out there for everybody to know. Get me that shirt, and hey, it's a dope shirt. That's to start. As far as the game is concerned, it is a disappointing loss. Nobody was madder about it throughout the entire game than me. I've had some time to process it. I'm still not happy, but the one thing that's kind of keeping me kind of even keel with this whole situation is that we don't know what it's going to look like with Kalen DeBoer having his types of guys. Right. If we end up seeing more of the same and we get in the next season and it's more of the same, I will be right there saying I'll be sounding the alarms just like everybody else. I just need to see it. I think there's plenty of reasons why this season kind of went down the way that it did. I'm not trying to make excuses for everybody, but time will tell if I'm correct, and if I'm not, I'll be the first one to admit it. It's a disappointing loss, and no fans this is not the way that you wanted Kalen DeBoer's first season to come to a close. But if you look, we've seen worse in the past, and I think that I still feel encouraged about where the program's heading.
Okay. All right. EG, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I am going to enjoy the beach tonight. Very excited about that.
Me too.
But
woo!
Now y'all are bragging.
Sorry, Clint, you're not doing this.
Do y'all have red lights in y'all's background? No.
No, we don't. But we've got the nice oceanscape.
Oh yeah. Oh, ocean.
Anybody at Captain Tony's tonight, come by and holler at me.
It felt very reminiscent to a year ago in Pasadena. That was, I think I can sum it up like that. Sitting in, at the Rose Bowl Stadium and watching, that overtime unfold, and then sitting here and watching, the last 2 minutes of this game unfold, very similar. Great
point.
Yeah. Look, I would say this. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Make sure that you check out mybookie.eg. They bring this to us. Oh, I'm sorry, AG. All these E's in here. But anyway, take advantage of this, right? 300% deposit to bonus for the casino and 50 free spins using the promo code next round, and then 50% off the sign-up bonus for the sports book. That's mybookie.ag. Not EG.
Nailed it.
I got it right that time. Also, covercrimson.com. Clint, that's your area, man. You're killing it on there. What do you got going on?
I'm gonna do snap count observations for this game, and I just want everybody to know that I'm not excited about it. I'm gonna do it for you guys, and then I'm gonna do a season-long snap count observation, see which guys were trending in which direction. I was gonna do that before the bowl, and then kind of see how things change, but I just elected to wait on that and see how it all looks from a season-long perspective. We'll be obviously getting into certain guys playing in this game, but I think some of that will be pretty telling as far as certain players like James Smith is a perfect example. You saw that kind of come to a head in this game. I thought he was fantastic. But we'll be talking about all that stuff over at covercrimson.com. Great message board, great community. Love all the subscribers over there. Always make excellent points. EG was hopping on there today and starting some great threads. I thought just the storyline piece that she had on that, just a lot of detail, a lot of effort put into that, and it was great stuff. It was exactly what I wanted to read kind of going in, and a lot of people contributed, and it was a great conversation. So if you haven't already, go subscribe over there, and Mick, I appreciate you, and EG, I appreciate you as well.
and I'm taking a few days off. So don't look for me in the next few days. I'm going to be out here in Key West. But look, what I will tell you is that this game was disappointing. But I love all of you guys for being on the show with us today. Really, I mean, the fact that 1,000 people at one time were watching our post-game show live, it means a lot. And this isn't the season that we wanted, but I believe in Coach DeBoer. I really do, and I think he's a good dude that's got to figure out his way of getting the program where he needs to get the program to, and a lot of that has to do with discipline. But I really truly believe that recruiting is such a big part of this. He's not losing out on there. It's just finding, the players that you need to run your system the way that you want to run it. You couldn't come in and bench Milroe. I mean, he stuck by us when everything else went down. This season was what it is, Could have another quarterback done a better job? Maybe, but I'm not the guy that's going to bench the guy that stuck by me and help keep the program together when things were going, it felt like it was going like the Titanic. So, but guys, check out covercrimson.com. We love having you on here every single day. We really appreciate you guys. And and Happy New Year, everyone. Have a great night. EG, have a great night. Clint, have a great night. I'm going to have one. All you guys hanging out, you have one too. Thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, and thumbs up on the channel. 2.5 hours of this post-game show just to tell you we love you guys and Roll Tide. Thank you for calling in as well. Thank you, guys.